Today, we're going to be talking about some of the most hated FNAF fan games the community has ever seen. Whether it was because of controversial decisions, disappointing releases, or simply failing to meet the enormous expectations surrounding them, these games sparked some of the biggest debates in fan game history. Some of these are still talked about years later for all the wrong reasons, so let's get into it. The kings of classic FNAF fan games. What comes to mind when I say that? Maybe Five Nights at Candy's, Five Nights at Wario's, Those Nights at Rachel's, and Treasure Island, to name a few. But for you freaks, you goons, you heathens, there might just be another answer. A game so popular when it came out, for a reason I'm not even sure of myself. Today, I'll be talking about that game. A game so utterly terrible, yet somehow loved. Sit back and relax, because today we're diving into the weird world of Five Nights with Mac tonight. Where do I even begin with this game? Probably by saying that for this video, I played both the first and second games, except not really because I played the remastered versions of them. Was this a good idea? No. These games were pretty bad, and unironically enough, the thing about them that pissed me off the most was the story, but we'll get into that later. And trust me, you don't want to miss that. The game starts as you'd expect an old FNAF game to begin. We pick up a newspaper and accept a job at a restaurant full of animatronics waiting to break our consent and make their willy wag. We enter the restaurant and get the first phone call of the night, and really begin the nightmare that is this game. Not only are these phone calls absolutely horrific from a story standpoint, but they're also somehow even worse from an immersion standpoint. Why? Well, not only are they quite literally impossible to hear because of how fucking loud the rest of the game is.
This is Chrissy. You may remember me. I'm the manager here at this business.
But I guess the developer thought that it'd be really funny not to cut out any of the mistakes by the voice actor.
We can't afford broken animatronics in a restaurant that hasn't even opened yet. We can't afford broken animatronics in a restaurant that hasn't even been broken to the public yet.
That's more funny than anything, but the whole barely being able to hear the phone call part is enough to make me want to throw a baby deer in a river. Oh yeah, and if that wasn't bad enough, the phone guy is also Australian, so that's just torture. Anyways, the phone guy doesn't really say anything of substance in this night, really only explaining the basics, but I get the feeling I can do a hell of a lot better than he can. Let's start by going over the few tools at our disposal. First, we have the cameras. No shit. On the cameras, we have a call button that is located on the camera that contains Mac tonight. This button does what you'd think it does. Makes some noise, animatronics go, ew, and then leave. But who's affected by the call button? Let's think long and hard about that one, guys. I don't know. Maybe the fucker who's on the same camera? Jesus Christ, why am I having to explain this basic concept to you? You're like a toddler, a little stupid drooling baby, a little insignificant worm, rodent, vermin, bug. Sorry. No, I'm not. That's a lie. Anyways, the only threat on this night is Mac himself, and he's pretty damn basic. All he does is meander through your cameras, like holy shit, he's so slow. Eventually, he'll wander into your office, which, pause for a minute. This is not an office. I think we're just stationed in the kitchen? Maybe? I quite literally have no idea where we are right now, because this, to the left, is the drive-thru window. So we have to be in the kitchen, right? Because if so, that's stupid. But whatever. When Mac gets to your office, all you have to do is use the call button to cause him to go back to his stage. Very basic. What's the downside? I'm glad you asked, because of course there's a downside. If you use the call button too many times, an error will begin. To fix it, all you have to do is go to your control panel and reboot it. God, don't you guys miss playing Five Nights at Freddy's 3? What's that? You don't? That's unsurprising, because FNAF 3 makes me want to stick my penis in a blender. But believe it or not, that's not the only attack Mac is capable of. The other attack consists of being a fat ass and going through the drive-thru several times each night. As I'm sure you could have guessed, Mac has the chance to instead wander to the drive-thru window, and when he does, all you have to do is open the control panel and literally just tell him to fuck off, and he listens. Surprising, I know, but you know what? I'm not gonna complain, because he listened, and I appreciate that. But after each night, we get to talk about the post-night cutscenes, which aren't really cutscenes because it's just a black screen with people talking. In this game, I have no idea who we play as, but who is important is the Australian man, so get used to hearing his voice a lot. The Australian man's name is Chris. He's the manager of the McDonald's we work at. And in this cutscene, he walks into the office of... I actually don't know who we could be talking to. It's clearly a higher up because Chris asks him for a raise, but I have no idea who this higher up could be. I'm guessing it's the owner of the building, or who knows, fuck, maybe it's the CEO of McDonald's, I don't know. Anyways, Chris walks into his boss's office and asks about a raise. Why do you ask? Well, this is where we get to talk about the most hilarious sequence of words I've ever heard. Chris says his daughter is sick, with either an infection or a disease. He doesn't know what it is, but in his expert McDonald's manager opinion, it looks fatal.
Well, so far my daughter and I are dealing with very little money, mainly affected by taxes and whatnot. She's currently going through some infection or disease. I don't know what it is, but it seems fatal.
I know this is supposed to be like a super serious moment in the story, but I just thought this sentence was so fucking funny. Maybe I'm an asshole. I don't know. Of course, Chris is all pissy that he doesn't get a raise, which, by the way, grow up. You did what you should have done and asked. You didn't end up getting it. That sucks. But you want to know what you don't do? Throw a fucking temper tantrum and yell at your boss. Because that's just going to get you fired, moron. I get your kid is probably dying, but you want to know what'll make your financial situation a lot better? Not having a kid anymore. The boss explains that the reason Chris can't get a raise is because the company recently spent a lot of money on the new animatronics for the restaurant. They saw how well the Mac Tonight commercials performed on TV, so they thought it'd be a good idea to capitalize and buy the animatronics so that the company would make more money. That makes sense. However, because of this, the restaurant would be closed for a week while they did renovations on the building in preparation. This, overall, is a very valid explanation as to why Chris will not be getting a raise as of now. But instead, after only one fucking day of working at the goddamn restaurant, he's already both demanding a raise and throwing a fit after not getting one. Actual child behavior right here. Moving on to night 2, we get another call from our boy Chris. He's all mopey because his stupid kid is gonna die, blah, blah, blah. Who the fuck cares, am I right? He mentioned something about the Hamburglar being found in the vents of the building, which, by the way, I would find hilarious if the Hamburglar wasn't also the most infuriating character in this entire game. Speaking of the Hamburglar, let's talk about what this dickhead does. The Hamburglar, as I'm sure you could have guessed, burgles hamburgers. The Hamburglar, as I'm sure you could have guessed, burgles hamburger. The Hamburglar, as I'm sure you could have guessed, burgles hamburgers, and based off of where they found him, is a vent animatronic. Actually, the vent animatronic, as no other characters actually use it directly. We'll talk about that later. The Hamburglar will try to find your vent and crawl inside of it, something I think is very interesting considering this fat motherfucker steals cheeseburgers for a living, something I'm sure his mother is very proud of. Now, here's where I get to talk about how much I hate this piece of shit. He has a few phases before he's fully in your vent. What you're supposed to do is, in the final phase before he enters, blow super hot air using a button in your cameras to scare him away. That in and of itself is super easy. The problem comes from not knowing where he is, which again is super surprising given his profession of choice. Now, in most FNAF games, when you look at the cameras, they slowly pan side to side. They do the same in Mac Tonight's as well. However, in most FNAF games, you can always see the character when they're on the camera, no matter what the position of the camera is. Can you tell where I'm going with this? If not, let me make it very clear for you. When the camera is panned all the way to the right on this vent camera, you literally cannot see the Hamburglar. Why is this a problem? Because the cameras move so goddamn slow that you often won't be able to tell when he's moving because the camera is constantly glued to the right side of the screen. Bro, I wish this camera wouldn't turn 400 billion feet away from that fucking thing. Bro, could you turn the fucking camera towards him so I can see his ass? Luckily for me, I eventually heard a sound cue he makes to make noticing his movements a lot easier. But holy shit, future FNAF game devs, please, for the love of God, don't make this mistake, because this made me want to find a silverback gorilla and have him start digging in me. But regardless, if you can learn the sound cue, the ham bitch boy really shouldn't be too much of an issue, and we can move on to the post-night 2 bullshit cutscene. This cutscene starts with Chris getting on the phone with who I'm assuming to be someone at the hospital that's seeing his daughter, which, by the way, doesn't make sense. In the previous cutscene, Chris told his boss he doesn't have money to even get his kid seen by the doctor, which, by the way, I know in the US you can't legally be denied medical care, but fuck you, it's not disclosed where this game takes place, so eat my balls. Regardless, it is confirmed she has a disease. Still insane that the disease doesn't have a name either, because they've also confirmed that there's nothing they can do and she is in fact going to die. I find it weird that they can both determine that it is fatal when they haven't confirmed what disease it is. Or who knows, maybe Chris is just retarded and can't pronounce words with more than 6 letters in them, as emphasized by him once again getting upset and calling his boss stupid for ordering the new animatronics for his, and I quote, greed of money.
That bastard. Ordering them pieces of junk just for his greed of money?
Moving on to night 3, we're told nothing important by Chris and are introduced to 2 new characters, Grimace and Ronald McDickhead. Let's talk about Grimace first, because Grimace would never hurt a fly. On purpose. Grimace works kind of like a foxy, having multiple stages before attacking you, except I actually just lied because he only has 1 phase before attacking you. When you see him move from his original position, all you need to do is press a button on your camera to make him go back. Are you starting to notice a pattern for this game's mechanics? That's fine. Maybe the main fucking mascot for McDonald's will be better. What does Ronald do? Well, he'll walk around the building, aimlessly probably, attempting to find your office. When he gets there, he'll make a sound cue and stand here. I can see this getting really... Who the fuck is that? What is Ronald McDonald? Oh my fucking ears! Oh my fucking ears! For fuck's sake! What the fuck was that? I think this is like a window to the dining area. Maybe. Again, I have no idea where we are in the building. When he is there... You wanna take a little guess what you have to do to stop him from turning into the gobble monster, lathering your nuts in honey and having a feast? Yeah, that's exactly right. You have to use the exact same call button that you use for Mac, except this time it makes no fucking sense because why the hell would that affect Ronald Donald? That's it. I'm not kidding. We're already at the point where we'll just talk about the next cutscene. For fuck's sake, people actually enjoy this game, and not just because of nostalgia. Whatever. In the night 3 cutscene, Chris goes into his boss's office, tells him that his daughter dying is somehow his fault, and then literally fucking stabs him to death. Slow way the fuck down. Really? That's your reaction to that? Sure, you didn't get the raise, but guess what? Clearly you were able to get her to the hospital because you found out it was fatal. But guess what, dumbass? No amount of money would have made it not fatal. And if it could have made it not fatal, then that just means you waited too long to get to the hospital to get it checked. Now, you might be thinking, oh, he didn't want to go to the hospital because he didn't have the money for it. Usually that would make sense, but I'm gonna say fuck you to that thought process in this situation, because if this guy is willing to kill somebody because his daughter is dying, I don't think anything would have stopped him from going into the hospital to attempt to figure out what's going on with her in a timely manner. This story is such a headache. This story is frustrating, and this story makes my dick hurt. If the plot of this game is trying to make me not like Chris, then I take back my criticism, as it's doing a great job at that. But if it's instead trying to make me side with Chris and understand his way of thinking and say, you know what? Sure, killing someone is bad, but at least you could argue he had a good reason to. Then this game is doing an absolutely horrendous job at doing so. Night 4 time. What does Night 4 introduce? Well, first, I want to take a brief moment to talk about the phone call and about how little sense this story makes. So, the phone guy is very clearly Chris. You can tell by the ear-grating Australian accent. So, I can't figure out the order of events that take place in this game. As we're playing through the nights, it's clear that the animatronics that were being brought have already arrived. The same animatronics that caused Chris's boss to not give him a raise. Cool. We're told in this phone call that the restaurant still has yet to open, which by the way raises a whole different ordeal of questions, like why the fuck are we even here? But whatever, let's forget about that for a moment. Throughout this phone call, it's very clear that Chris is bothered by the fact that the animatronics are moving from their positions at night, and he yells at us to move them back before we leave work. He says that we can't afford to have these animatronics break before the building is open to the public. So pause. Why the fuck does Chris care? Maybe I'm not even asking this question in the right way. So here, let's just pause and let's go over everything we know real quick and pretend that it all makes sense. Chris asks for a raise, gets denied. His daughter is told she's going to die and there's nothing they can do about it. Chris then kills his boss. This is what we know so far from the post-night cutscenes. We also know that Chris thinks the robots are stupid and have a part to play in his kid dying. So then tell me, why the fuck does he care so much about the state of these animatronics when in his mind they have a large part in why his daughter is either dead or dying? This is the big problem for me with this series. When I stop to think about why what's happening is happening, it just doesn't make any goddamn sense. And get this, when we start talking about the second game, it's going to make even less sense. No, I'm not joking. We'll talk about the second game in a bit, but this fact is just making me think that the dev wrote the story as he went. But okay, let's stop talking about the phone call now and move on to the threats this night introduces. Birdie and Mayor McCheese. Let's start with Mayor McCheese because it's literally just Mac tonight with a Fortnite skin on. Literally, he does the same thing. Can enter your office and show up at your drive-thru, is both dealt with in the same ways. Worthless character. With that out of the way, we can talk about the much more interesting character, which for a female bird character in a FNAF game, I surprisingly have no sexual tendencies towards it, because this bird is butt ugly. Birdie is the only other character that interacts with your vent, except unlike Big Boy, she doesn't actually enter it, probably because she's the size of Jupiter. All she likes to do is break your shit, so she must have gotten divorced, am I right, fellas? Anyways, her goal is to break your vent heater. A sound cue will play when she does so, and when she does, all you have to do is use your maintenance panel to fix it. And hey, while we're here talking about the maintenance panel, let's talk about how jank it is, and how it adds literally no challenge to this game whatsoever. The maintenance panel in Five Nights at Freddy's 3 adds a challenge because when something is being repaired, you can't use it, leading to a lot of bullshit timings that artificially make the game more difficult than it technically is. Mac Tonight's aimed to do the same thing, except they forgot the part where fixing something makes it temporarily unusable. While yes, the fixing beeps take a long time to finish, the moment you click the repair button, the problem is solved. So you can go to fix the heater, press the button, and immediately after use the heater to blow away the hungry bitch boy. Isn't that just awesome? The answer is yes, because without this gameplay flaw, this game would probably be impossible. Moving on to the Night 4 post-night cutscene, we hear Chris driving in his car. And it's during this scene my mind was fucking blown, because this story somehow begins to make even less sense. It's here where we learn that up until now, Chris hasn't even been a manager. He was just an employee, and the guy he killed was the manager. Before I continue talking about this, we need to pause and immediately go over another massive flaw in this game's story logic. So, in case you didn't know, managers aren't the ones who give you a fucking raise, you moron! There is quite literally nothing he could have done for you. It's not his decision to make. The way raises typically work is the manager will recommend an employee for a raise. It's then either up to HR, a committee, the owner, or even higher management to decide whether or not to give the raise. This fucking retard killed a guy for no fucking reason whatsoever. And the craziest part, now he's taking his place. And that's why we hear him on the phone calls. He's the fucking manager now. Want to hear some even more mindfuck? He states on the phone call that he's going over to the facility where the animatronics are being stored to go destroy them. If he's destroying them, why the fuck does he care about them so much in the phone call we receive on Night 4? What the actual fuck is going on in this goddamn story? It makes no fucking sense. And guess what? It's still going to make even less sense once we start talking about the second game. So strap in, guys, because if you haven't gone brain dead yet, then you're going to later. Going into night 5, we receive one last phone call from Chris. He thanks us for protecting the animatronics, even though literally in the night previously we got yelled at for letting them move, but fuck it, whatever. At the end of this phone call, something enters the office and ganks his ass.
You should wait. What are you doing?
Oh shit.
Get away from me, you piece of...
Oh shit. Not totally sure what it is, we're left to finish off the night, which, as I'm sure you could have guessed, adds nothing new, so we can move right on to the post-night cutscene. So, I need you guys to take a deep breath before we dive into this cutscene, because you're going to need to use your head a lot, and honestly, it may implode from stupidity. During this scene, we hear the voice of Chris's manager, so we know that this has to take place before he was killed. He mentions that the animatronics have been very damaged in the facility they were being held in. We know from the last call that Chris was going to destroy them, which is why he was driving. So we know that scene takes place before this one. However, that also means that during that scene, Chris's boss was still alive, which means he went to destroy the animatronics to piss his manager off and then killed him. Now, slow down. That doesn't make any sense. Why would he do something like that if his final plan was to kill him? That wouldn't make any sense. He wouldn't get the chance to be angry about it because he'd be dead right after. I should also mention that his manager mentions needing to check the cameras to see what damaged them. And from a very, very important detail we will learn in the second game, it makes the scene where his boss is killed even more confusing. But I'll talk about that later once we learn this very important detail. For now, let's just move on to night 6. Remember how I said the call we got from Chris on night 5 was the last? Well, guess what, shithead? I lied to you. That's right, never trust YouTubers, especially not FNAF ones. They're either liars or pedophiles. And seeing the types of people I'm up against, I'm really glad I got given the liar trait and not the other one. Anyways, yeah, we still do get a phone call from Chris this night, except this time it's revealed that he's turned into an animatronic. Woo! Spooky, bitch! For some reason, he wants to kill us. I don't know why. He says that he can't have any witnesses, but that brings up way more questions. One, is he implying that we saw him kill his manager? Because I'm pretty sure we didn't. Trying to follow the timeline would show we weren't even working here at that time, so that's not possible. Second, even if we did see it, you're dead and have been turned into an animatronic or something. So it's not like you can be held responsible for your actions anyways. Also, yeah, I think it's pretty obvious Chris got killed by Mac in Night 5's phone call, as Chris is now a new threat in this night that will attack you. He's literally just Mac. He even looks like Mac. He attacks the doors, attacks the drive-thrus. Wahoo! Once you beat Night 6, you'll be thrown into a sort of free roam section, except not really, because it's a scripted scene where you walk up to Mac. He looks at you and the screen goes black, and then we get to talk about the post-night cutscene. This one takes place at who the fuck knows when. Chris is talking to his boss about getting a job watching over the warehouse where the animatronics are stored, the same place he later goes to destroy them. Okay, so we know this takes place before that, but can we pinpoint exactly when this takes place? The answer to that question is yes, and to answer it, we have to take a look at the second game. But before we hop over to that game, I have one more question to ask. What the fuck was the point of the character we played as during the night segments? We quite literally served no purpose. Apparently we were witnesses, but we never actually witnessed anything. At first I thought, maybe Chris is destroying the animatronics and then pretending in the phone calls to us it's something else doing it. But that wouldn't make sense because one, we're not in the facility where they're stored, we're in the McDonald's, and two, Chris killed his manager after he destroyed the robots. And we know that during the night sections his manager is already dead because Chris is the manager at that point. So what the fuck did we even do except just work at fucking McDonald's? I guess we got looked at by Mac at the end, but it seems like we were just utterly useless. Also, we were wearing a yellow glove, which would lead me to believe it was actually in the POV of fucking Ronald. I don't know what the hell's happening right now. But whatever, let's forget about this mess and just hope that Mac Tonight's 2 is better than this one. Spoiler alert, it's a lot worse. Get a refill on snacks and drinks. Let's dive deeper down the shithole. When it comes to Five Nights at Mac Tonight's 2, not only is it worse gameplay-wise, it's also worse story-wise, somehow. Let's start by getting one huge detail I noticed out of the way. On the title screen, you can see a list of credits, and if you look close enough, you can see that one of the people who helped work on this game was, Ivan G, aka the creator of my least favorite FNAF fan game series of all time, Jolly. If you'd like to hear me rant all about that game, you can do so after you finish this video, as I have an entire hour-long review of that game up on this channel. Also, I haven't done this at all in this video, so go subscribe to Dxtr Black, Dxtr Blue, Dxtr Gray, join the Discord server, and go check out the merch store as well. All links in the description. In Mac Tonight's 2, we play as Chris, which would reveal that this game takes place both before the events of the first game and before Chris killed his manager. Loading into the first night, the phone call doesn't tell us a whole lot, basically what we already know. Chris took up the job to watch the warehouse where the animatronics are stored, but of course, we know he's just there to destroy them. Let's talk about our tools. This time around, we have 2 sets of cameras, one normal set and another set specifically for the vents. The only threat active on night 1 is Mac, who will walk through your cameras to try to get to your office. This time around, there are 2 entrances, that being 2 doors. Why? Because fuck you! What I really want to focus on was the biggest dick move I've ever seen a game pull before. Let's take a moment to tunnel vision on the only 2 cameras that matter in this game, Camera 2 and Camera 4. Both cameras are the cameras right next to your office doors, and through each you can remotely turn on a safety lock to keep the robots out. Each door has its own power supply. The problem? These power supplies drain fast as fuck. So much so that I was noticing on earlier nights that when Mac would appear on camera 4, that by the time he'd leave, I'd be left with a big chunk of power missing, which led me to believe that the remainder of the nights would be very difficult because no shit, he would be attacking more frequently. Something even cooler? Where does Mac go after camera 4? Camera 2. What's in camera 2? Another fucking entrance to the office. Holy shit, we have to waste even more power. Now pause. If you're familiar with this game, I can already tell you're going to the comments to explain to me how badly I'm not understanding how this mechanic works. And shut up. I know that's not exactly how it works. I like to explain based on my experience, and this is how it went. Turns out, this camera state is not Mac about to open the camera 4 door. He actually has 2 different phases on this camera, attack and no attack. When he's standing like this, away from the door, then you know he's just traveling to camera 2 to attack. He will look like this when it's actually him attacking camera 4's door. So what's the problem? Well, I literally never saw Mac go into his attack camera 4 state until night 3. Excuse me? I don't think that it's my fault for not noticing earlier when my RNG with movements is that dog shit. Holy fuck. But whatever. After learning that, I had no problems with Mac, and we're free to move on to the post-night 1 cutscene. Psych! Guess what? There aren't any. We're just jumping right into night 2. Night 2 drops a fucking bombshell on me and blows up all hope of understanding the lore of this game. It's revealed on this night that the phone guy isn't Chris's boss, as he mentions that the manager at a McDonald's had his throat slit, now establishing that Chris had already killed him. This doesn't make any sense, and it pisses me off. And you'll understand why later when we talk about that very important detail I mentioned earlier, so just bear with me a bit longer. For now, let's go over this night's threats. This night introduces this game's Toy Freddy equivalent, the Hamburglar. And no, not because of his game mechanics, but because he's a fat ass. He is the character to introduce the vent mechanics, exactly how he does in the first game, except this time it's somehow even more worthless. Once he enters your vents, he will appear in any of the 4. When he does, all you have to do is seal the vent he is in until he leaves. Each vent has its own power supply, and these 2 drain very fast. But that doesn't matter because even during this game's most difficult canon night, you will hardly ever be attacked. The phone guy mentions that only 1 vent can be sealed at a time, but fun fact, that's actually just not fucking true at all because you can seal all of them at the same time if you really wanted to, so that's cool. Night 3 introduces 1 new threat, but before we can talk about that, we need to talk about the headache that is this night's phone call. During this call, the phone guy tells us that Mac's box was moved and looks like it had been opened. Of course, that makes sense because we watched him walk around the building. All good. Whatever. However, he also mentions the progress the police have made on the murder of Chris's manager. They found out he was a former employee and that he was spotted running out of the building wearing a mask and a McDonald's uniform. Pause, please. My brain can only take so much stupidity at a time. So, what this tells us is that at the time Chris killed his manager, he wasn't working at the McDonald's because they referred to him as a former employee. That doesn't make sense because during the night 3 cutscene in the first game, when Chris enters his manager's office to kill him, his manager mentions that there's nothing he can do to help. So we know he was working there. Maybe that was a mistake and he wasn't working there, or maybe this is a mistake and they shouldn't have said former employee. But let's just say this game is correct and he was a former employee. Why the fuck was he wearing a McDonald's uniform if he didn't even work there? This story doesn't make any fucking sense and nothing lines up. No, this is not a case of the game being mysterious and, ooh, it's our job as theorist hunters to piece it together. Fuck you. This is just bad writing, like really fucking bad writing. We still haven't even gotten the real bombshell yet, the very important detail I've been talking about throughout this video. But before we can get to it, we have to talk about tonight's threat, Birdie. Birdie did something unique in the last game. What about this one? Nope, she's just a hamburglar. Enters vents, seal them, that's it. Moving on. Night 4 somehow manages to make even less sense than ever before. We're told that Birdie had gotten damaged, like a crowbar was smashed into her face. Okay, so we know that at this point, Chris had already begun breaking the animatronics. Cool. Now, here's the stupid part. We're told that the police are obviously still investigating the murder. They questioned all the current employees about the incident, and the phone guy tells us, no joke, that they put the employees who were suspects through a lie detector. Fuck the fact that lie detectors can be notoriously inaccurate. Let's talk about the fact that they know it's a former employee. Ding, 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 former. So why the fuck are the current employees suspects? That doesn't even make any fucking sense why they would suspect a current employee of being the murderer when they know it was a former employee. Sure, the guy was wearing a uniform, but they've already established that he was a former employee, aka not a fucking employee anymore. Am I overreacting? Does this story actually make perfect sense and I'm just retarded? I don't think it does. Anyways, the threat on this night is Mayor McCheese. He's just Mac. Goes to the door, close it, what the fuck ever. I know you guys are just interested in this story at this point and how retarded it is. Night 5 phone call. Let's go over it. Mayor McCheese was damaged. Obviously our doing. We're told that today is our last night, yet for some reason we're told that we can come in tomorrow if we really want to. Why? I literally have no idea. And the phone guy literally offers no good explanation whatsoever. It's clear that at this point, the phone guy thinks we're not doing our job well. And to be fair, we really aren't, so that makes sense. Really nothing important in this call, so let's just go over the final threat in this game, Grimace. Grimace, surprisingly, does something different than the other characters. He acts sort of like a phantom balloon bitch from Five Nights at Freddy's 3. He will slowly leave his box, and when he does, he'll appear on a camera. If you see him, close the cameras and he'll reset to his box. If you don't do it fast enough, he'll force your cameras to reboot, which will take a while. So like, just close the cameras. Who gives a fuck? Let's just talk about this stupid fucking story and the stupid fucking important detail I've been teasing for the last half hour. During the night 6 phone call, it's revealed that the phone guy checked the cameras of the warehouse and saw Chris breaking the animatronics, specifically Grimace. He tells us that we need to get out, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we know, no shit, he's pissed, and rightfully so. But hold up. Did you hear what I just said? He checked the cameras and saw us. Doesn't that sound familiar? Oh yeah, it does. Why, you ask? Well, this little tidbit is that super important detail I've been talking about throughout this video. Towards the end of Mac Tonight 1, during the final cutscene, we hear Chris's manager mentioning that the robots are being damaged and that he needs to check the cameras. This would tell me that this exact moment is what he was talking about then. But here's the crazy part. All of that would add up perfectly fine if it wasn't confirmed that the phone guy in the second game wasn't the fucking manager, because he said the manager was already dead. So who the fuck is this guy? And why did the manager say he needed to check the cameras of the warehouse at the end of the first game? This story literally makes no fucking sense whatsoever. There was no thought put into it. I can't piece any of it together because each piece of the fucking puzzle is from a different goddamn box. What the fuck do you expect from me, game? I finally get confident enough to talk about the stories of the games I play in my videos, and then I'm hit with this fucking bullshit. I've spent hours upon hours trying to figure this shit out to find out it's been completely fucking broken from the start. The gears in my brain are turning so fast, I think the whole engine altogether is gonna fucking explode. Thank God I got that out of my system. But that's all Five Nights with Mac Tonight's has to offer. Yes, by the way, before you say anything, I know that there is a third game, but fuck you. It's confirmed to not be canon, so I don't give a fuck about it. This series was an experience I would be okay with never going through again. It wasn't nearly as soul-sucking as Jolly, however, it was definitely enough to cut several years off my lifespan. From horrific gameplay to the worst story I've ever seen in my life, Mac Tonight's truly doesn't have it all. Today, I have the misfortune of telling you about a game that made me so incredibly angry during my playthrough that I've avoided making this very Dxtr White video for the last several months. I have not wanted to touch this game ever since I finished playing it, but here I am. I noticed that I've only been covering games that have been making me happy recently. Games that don't make my blood vessels explode. Well, I figured today I'd switch it up a little bit and talk about a game that makes me so irrationally angry I can barely breathe just thinking about it. Let's waste no more time and jump into the absolute dumpster fire of a world that is Fang's Pizza and Theater. Before the game even begins, we're thrown into Event, with seemingly something standing outside of it. I personally find it fitting that we're sitting in Event because that's personally where I will be crawling to die after finishing this video, which, by the way, I will tell you, I cannot wait for. I'm only 3 paragraphs into this and I'm already dreading writing the rest of this video. I played this game so long ago that I've mostly wiped it from my memory, so now I'm forced to watch somebody else play it and relive my traumas like a patient with PTSD. But with that, we're thrown into night 1 and we can talk about the tools at our disposal. And how much I fucking hate them. To start, we obviously have our camera system. Of course, it's a FNAF game, so that's pretty par for the course. On top of that, we have a flashlight. However, this flashlight does not work the way a flashlight normally works. No, that would be too easy and make poor little Dxtr too happy. Instead, they had to make this flashlight literally worse than Satan. While yes, this flashlight does work as a normal flashlight, it will also be our main form of defense throughout this entire game. So get used to using it constantly. But we'll talk more about that once we start talking about the threats this piece of shit bullshit fuck-ass game introduces. The flashlight's battery will decrease very fast for reasons I'll talk about a bit later. For now, let's talk about what you have to do when this flashlight gets low on battery. Well, I'm sure you've noticed just from the footage I'm showing you on screen right now, but the office we're in is pretty big. Turning around completely, we'll find a shelf with several batteries on it. Clicking on one of these piles of batteries will completely fill our flashlight, but we obviously only have a limited amount of batteries, so we can't be retarded about it. The last thing I want to talk about before we dive into the characters this night introduces are the 3 entrances to our office. The left vent, the window in front of us, and the right door. That's really it. There's no way to close any of them. They're just entrances. Okay, moving on. Night 1 introduces 2 threats, and both of them go to show off the worst mechanic this game has to offer, in my opinion, that being the main fucking mechanic. Maybe I'm just salty today, I don't know, but I really didn't like this game, as I'm sure you could have already been able to tell. Let's start from the simplest character, Faye. Faye acts as this game's introductory character. She's so incredibly easy to understand, but don't let that fool you. I've lost several fucking times to this piece of shit, so don't get it twisted. Faye will begin on the east stage. From there, she'll move to the dining room, to the bar where you'll be able to find me for the next week until it's time for me to write the next white video. Then, from the bar, she'll move to the hallway, wherein directly after she'll show up outside of our office window. And this is also where the first ass-clenching mechanic gets introduced. You can't see characters in your office unless you flash your light on them. Now, is this a problem by itself? No, of course not. Not at all. However, when your main mechanic is your flashlight and you need to waste power constantly checking bullshit, then it makes me piss an entire fire hydrant out of my urethra. Anyways, when you see Faye at your window, that's when it's time to act. And this is also where I get to talk about that silly little thing your flashlight does that I mentioned earlier. If you hold down your flashlight, it'll slowly charge and then release a light so bright you'd think a third nuke was dropped on Japan. Bam! Bitch, the light of God on your ass. Obviously, Faye doesn't fucking like it when you literally put the sun in her eyes, so she backs off and goes back on stage. However, using this big mega flash wastes a bunch of power on your flashlight, so it's likely you'll have to grab a battery. Dexter, that doesn't really sound so bad. I don't know why you're complaining. Well, just sit back. If you haven't figured out what this game is about to do to my organs, you will soon find out, so stick around. The second threat introduced on this night is the main attraction, Fang. Fang is everything you hate about Faye, except even worse because he has more choices. Typical man, am I right, ladies? Huh? No? Okay, moving on. Fang will begin on the east stage with Faye. From there, he'll move to the dining room. However, at this point, he has two options for what he can do next. Let's cover his first route first, wherein he'll go from the dining room to the restrooms, and from the restrooms to the hallway. Want to hear something awesome about him going to the hallway? You can't fucking see him when he's there. Why? Because fuck your mother in the face, that's why. From the From the hallway, he'll jump into the vents, which thankfully you can hear. And then, finally, he will be in the vent entrance of your office. Of course, you won't be able to see him without your flashlight, and just like Faye, when you see him, drop Little Boy on him and he'll go away. Alright, time to talk about Fang's second route, where he goes from the dining area to the bar. Once again, you will notice I am still present there because I've drank so much to the point where the bartender took my keys and I'm sitting there thinking, bitch, I can't leave. I'm miles away from home and you took my keys, so I guess I'm staying the night. After that, Fang moves to the hall corner, and from there he appears at our office's doorway. Do you want to take a guess what we do when he's there? That's right, we drop Fat Man on his ass and he'll go away. Are you starting to notice a pattern here and why it might be possibly incredibly frustrating, especially on later nights when the AI really kicks it into high gear? If not, you'll soon learn. But that's all this night has to offer. Of course, we also get a post-night minigame to play. Hooray! I never actually got any minigames in my playthrough. I'm not really sure why, and I don't give enough of a fuck to figure it out if I'm being honest with you. So let's just talk about the minigame. In it, we have to talk to our boss, which is this thick rabbit. And bro, I'm not gonna lie, I'd suck the cum out of her dad's dick just to get the recipe. Because... And bro, I'm not gonna lie, I'd suck the cum out of her dad's dick just to get the recipe because hot damn, I'd go crazy for this thing. She tells us to take out the trash like a good little boy, and I get down on all fours and do whatever she tells me to. Ruff, ruff! While looking for garbage cans, we walk into the bathroom and get teleported into some grandma's varicose veins. I'm not really sure why we're here, but there's shadow children running around and flashing hallucinations. After walking around the most nauseating place I've ever been in my entire life, we find this thing. What is it? I literally have no idea. But after we touch it, we're teleported back to the restaurant where we can find the rest of the garbage and finish up our shift by talking to mommy, and finally night 1 comes to a close. I really don't like how long it took me to talk about this night because I still have so much more to talk about, and I really would like to go back to forgetting that this game even exists. So let's just keep trucking through it. Starting night 2, we have another cutscene. This time, instead of being an event, we appear under a table or something. Who cares? We hear some footsteps, see whatever the hell this is at the end, and finally we're dropped into the next night section. During the phone call, we learn that the owner is trying to sell off the company. Last night's phone call told us about some new competitor restaurant that's doing better, probably Fazbear's if I had to guess. Who cares about the owner's problems? My problems matter to me a lot more, and I think that's a life lesson we could all take to heart. Mind your own fucking business. Only one new threat is introduced on this night, Melody the Bat. Thankfully, Melody acts as more of an annoyance character than an actual threat, and you really shouldn't have to worry too much about her. Melody will start on the west stage. From there, she'll move to the dining room, then the restrooms. Then she'll go to the hallway, to the hallway's corner, to the ordering station, then either the kitchen or the bar to visit me. Finally, depending on where she went, she'll either go to the parts and service or the dining room, and from there she'll jump back to the bathrooms. So, what is she actually doing all this time? Well, she has a chance to randomly attack one of the cameras. When she's attacking one, you'll get a notification in the corner of your cameras telling you so. You'll have to find the camera she's on and stare at her. If you don't, then she'll knock that camera out for the rest of the night. But get this, it really doesn't fucking matter. Her find her on the camera bullshit is pretty much nullified by the fact you really only need to watch 3 cameras throughout the entire game. So if she's not attacking any of those 3, then it doesn't really matter. Let them get fucked, nobody cares. Fang and Faye ramp up quite a bit on this night, so I don't really appreciate that. But with that, that's all night 2 really has to offer, and we can move on to the post-night 2 minigame. I'm very excited to see the Rabussy again. I can't lie, I'm rocking about a half chub right now just thinking about it. In this minigame, our Dom boss tells us to mop up the floors. I'll literally do anything you ask me, please. I don't think you understand. I'm such a degenerate. Anyways, fuck actually doing that. Behind the counter, we find a weird looking chair. Touch it and it'll take us back to Vane's world. If anybody gets that reference, I love you, by the way. Touch that weird looking thing again and we go back to the restaurant. Finish mopping and we can move on to night 3. Come on, let's keep it moving. Night 3 begins with another cutscene. In it, we're in a hallway this time, and we see this very tall, nice looking gentleman at the end of the hallway. Very cool. However, unfortunately, I literally don't care at all. Please, let's just move on to the night section. I really don't care about what the phone guy has to say on this night, but if you guys do, he basically tells us a story about how Fang was stuck in the vents, and they spent over an hour trying to get him out. Whoopity-doo, suck me off. Who's introduced on this night, and is it literally the worst character on the face of the planet Earth? Yes. The answer to that question is yes. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the literal cancer of the world, Nubs the Bear. Nubs is by far the most frustrating character in this entire game, and not even necessarily from his mechanic alone, but specifically from an anecdote I have from my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. Nubs begins on the west stage. From there, he'll move to the dining room. Then he'll go to either parts and service or the entrance. Then the bar to greet me once again. Yes, I still haven't left. Then from there, he'll either go to the hallway or the ordering station, and finally, he'll enter the vent. If Nubs ever gets to your vent, there's no way to stop him because he will be crawling all the way inside of your butt. God damn it! Fuck me and my... what the fuck? I didn't see him anywhere. What the fuck, bro? I didn't see him. So, how do you stop him from doing that? Well, you can catch Nubs on 2 of the cameras he goes through, the hallway and the ordering station. If you stare at him for a few seconds, he'll reset. However, this is where literally Death Incarnate himself comes out in the form of Nubs. This game literally does not tell you which camera Nubs can appear in, and Nubs, being a very dark character, is incredibly hard to notice on the cameras if you don't know where to look. And on top of that, he also hides, making it even harder to see him. So a mix of all of this leads to you literally dying to Nubs because you have no way of knowing which fucking cameras he can appear on without hours and hours of trial and error. This is the bullshit I went through during my playthrough. This motherfucker right here is why I never wanted to touch this game again. This piece of shit spit in my asshole, ruptured my spleen, caused my appendix to burst, and gave me a brain aneurysm. I hate this guy so much. He's not even challenging to deal with. It's just a pain in the dick that it took me what felt like 4 fucking months to figure all of his bullshit out. I think I'd rather get a urethral swab than ever play this game again, specifically because of this asshole right here. Play the game yourself. Fuck you. I'm not even gonna tell you which cameras he appears on. I hate all of you. Fuck. And of course, if you couldn't guess, both Fang and Faye have been ingesting cocaine like a suppository, so they're absolutely cracked out of their minds. Dude, I don't even want to. I actually just don't want to play this. Riding me like a bike throughout the entire night makes the process of looking for nubs the most foreskin ripping process on the planet. Damn. Anyways, rocking a full chub, we can move on to the minigame. Master tells us that we have to prep the tables, but we instead choose to find a broom and teleport to hell and touch a weird looking thing instead. Afterwards, we do snap back to reality and do what she says in hopes that she steps on me with her sweaty feet. Jesus Christ, what am I writing? This entire video has just been like disgusting line after disgusting line. I hope you freaks are happy. Let's move on to night 4. I don't know where we are, but that really tall guy is watching us again. All leaned over looking ass, spring Bonnie looking ass. I personally want to know why we're always on the floor in these cutscenes. It's a little ridiculous. Anyways, on to the night section. Guys, why does it feel like I'm always being tortured? Night 4 introduces a threat that is literally so annoying, so teeth gritting, so fist clenching. It's honestly impressive how the devs of this game just continue to make each night progressively more and more frustrating every single time without fail. Night 4 introduces Fang Sr. We've barely been introduced to any characters so far, and already we're repeating ourselves, so that's not a good sign. Fang Sr. is quite literally, probably without a shadow of a doubt, the most annoying character from any FNAF game I've ever played. I'm seriously not exaggerating one bit. I'm completely serious. I unironically think I would rather play the entire Jolly series again than this game ever again. I'm so incredibly dead ass, it's not even funny. Fang Sr. has perfect synergy with Fang in literally the worst way imaginable. Fang Sr. can only attack from one entrance, but he defies all logic, and I hate him. He starts in parts and service. From there, he already starts doing whatever the fuck it is he wants. He'll go to either the entrance, the dining room, or the bar. 3 choices, who gives a shit? Then he'll either go to the ordering station or the kitchen. Finally, he'll hit the hallway corner, and that's when he does it. That's when he goes to your office door, just like Fang. However, unlike Fang, you can't shine your light at him. If even for a moment, a fraction of a second, even the smallest beam of light touches his eyes, you are completely fucked, and he'll make you arch your back like a college girl who left her long-term boyfriend to live the college experience. We all know what that's really code for. When Fang Sr. enters your office, you have to stand completely still. He'll stand in your office for literally 100,000 years before finally leaving. During this time, you can't open your cameras, you can't turn around, you can't flash your flashlight, you can't even turn your fucking head. You literally move even 1 inch and this guy will make you a part of the Me Too movement. So, if you haven't figured out what the 2 major problems are with this character, allow me to explain them to you. To start, let's talk about the obvious one. He sits in your office for so long that by the time he finally leaves, you'll have lost track of literally every other character, and there will probably be someone ready to be flashed, or Nubs will have made it into your vent. Wasn't fast enough for seniors, was fucking my shit. He was fucking my shit up. Who knows? Who knows? That doesn't even matter anymore. And you can't even be good at this mechanic. And that's the most infuriating part. When Fang Sr. enters your office, you're basically just dropping to your knees and praying the game doesn't skull fuck you. Let's talk about the other glaring and much more frustrating issue with this character. We have to talk a bit more about Fang himself first. Tracking Fang really isn't necessary and is honestly not worth your time because it will leave you with more cameras you'll need to check when Melody is attacking. So it's much better to just quickly flash the vent and doorway every once in a while to check if Fang is there. But of course, now we have a character who, if we even flash for a millisecond, will kill us. So get ready to accidentally flash Fang Sr. over 12,000 times trying to beat this piece of shit. And we're only on night 4. It's going to get harder. Much, much harder. Like a shit ton harder. And not even skill-wise harder. Just dick-swinging Grandpa Fang limping his gimp ass into your room at random harder. During night 4's post-night minigame, we have to fill up cups because the customers are thirsty. I am personally thirsty for our boss, but I think I've made my stance on her objectively clear. Who cares about doing that? Touch whatever this thing is, go to the death world, touch this other thing I don't know the name of, finish filling the cups, and we can move on to night 5, aka Razor Blades in My Water Night. Night 5's cutscene has us yet again under a table in what appears to be parts and service. I think this robot on the floor in front of us is the character we've seen over the last few nights, but I can't be sure. Night 5 introduces nothing new, thank God. However, it does serve to be literally one of the most RNG-ridden, frustrating nights from any FNAF game I've ever played in my entire life. I would rather attempt post-shift 2 for an entire day. I cannot describe to you how much I did not enjoy this game. I almost feel bad constantly ripping on it, but to be fair, it kept constantly ripping my asshole. Since I don't have any new threats to bring up, and if I continue to shout I might go into cardiac arrest, I have nothing left to talk about aside from the post-night minigame. This time around we need to touch a barrel in the first room we're in. From there we touch the weird thing in the death area and then go to our future dungeon master. She tells us to bring the cake to the main room and we walk into the kitchen to do exactly that exactly then. Upon bringing the cake to the main room, both my wife and all of the children just stare at us. Upon talking to my owner, all she says is thanks, and the minigame abruptly ends. I don't want to tell you about the cutscene we see next. Just take a look. So yeah, that's actually just terrifying and one of the most disgusting and uncomfortable things I've seen in my entire life. The thought of hiding from one of these robots and it being intelligent enough to find you is unironically one of the scariest things of all time. And for all of the shit I've been giving this game throughout this whole video, I will say this cutscene is one of the most dread-inducing things I've ever seen in a FNAF game. So hats off for that. Oh yeah, one thing I should have mentioned that I just fucking didn't is that the only way you can get the post-night minigames is by finding a floppy disk during the night sections. So yeah, I'll just throw that in right here because I'm lazy. You're welcome. But with that, we can talk about night 6, by far the most interesting nights in this entire game. And yes, it does still make me pee blood. If you've done all the weird minigame blood butt touching, then a new character will be active on this night, that being Miss Willow. Miss Willow is an owl and acts as this game's boss fight night. And a boss fight she really is. Except instead of a fight to survive her, it's a fight to prevent myself from putting a certain metal object to my temple. Miss Willow is literally just a find them on the camera character. I'm not kidding. That's literally her only fucking mechanic. She'll say, find me, and you have to do exactly that. Except she does this a lot, in very quick succession, constantly, throughout the whole night. This is not gameplay, this is torture. If you fail to find her 3 times in a row, she'll randomly appear in any of the 3 entrances to your office, where you'll have to flash her to make her reset. Except the window of time to do this is so astronomically low, it might as well not even exist. I cannot describe to you how frustrating and bullshit this boss fight is. I hate it. I never beat it. I didn't get to do it in my playthrough over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, but I did attempt it while writing this video. And yeah, no, I'll pass, thanks. Fuck this night and fuck this game. After completing the boss fight, there's one more minigame to talk about. In it, all we have to do is follow Willow around the building. She talks some bullshit about a her, not explaining who that is. I don't care, guys. Here's all of the text she says in the cutscene. Read it if you give a shit. I don't care enough. I'm so done at this point. Afterwards, the minigame ends. Turning around in our seat, we see that Willow has somehow gotten into our house. Her face cracks open and 2 small hands hands grab it from the inside, splitting the face open and jump scaring us, which I'm praying to God just killed us right there on the spot. But even after that, we're still not done. No, this game needs to keep a chokehold on me for just a little bit longer. We get one final cutscene where we're back in the vent for some reason. We hear a woman crying and Willow appears in front of the vent again, and we wake up from a fucking dream. Are you literally ripping my scrotum off? A dream game? Really? Fuck you. Literally fuck you and fuck your entire face. I hate you. That's pretty much all Fang's Pizza and Theater has to offer. There is an additional mode called Golden Days, which, since we're here, I guess I'll quickly talk about it. Five Nights at Fang's The Golden Days is an older title in the Fang series. This appears to be just that game as a director's cut packed into this game as well. I never played it for myself, and I actually didn't even know this existed until doing research for this video. The version in this game consists of only one night and only has Fang, Faye, and Nubs. Except it only seems like Fang can move. He'll wander through the building before appearing in your vent. Just hold your flashlight on him and he'll fuck off. From watching Indie Fuel, my guardian angel, play this night is so slow and nobody even moved until like 4 a.m. So this just seems awful. The only reason I choose to mention this game is the minigame that takes place after you beat it. In it, you play as a large rabbit, maybe the one from the final cutscene, and you're in someone's house. You're holding something, but I can't quite tell what it is. But we walk out of the house and get surrounded by some bullies. They say we have rabbit ears. They say nobody loves nerds, which is literally just the biggest lie of all time. Ladies can confirm. They tell us to shut up and that they never want to see our face again, which tells me that this character is either a child that got infused with a rabbit suit, maybe, or it's just a kid wearing a rabbit suit. I have no idea. I don't even know any characters' names as to who this could be. And lucky me, this video is long enough, so I don't have to care. But with that, that's all Fang's Pizza and Theater has to offer. This is truly the most infuriating FNAF game I have ever played in my life. I truly do not believe I will ever play a game that actually makes me so unhappy again in my life. I remember filming this game and how miserable I got every time I had to boot it up. I'm so glad it's over. I'm happy I finally got around to writing this video so this game would stop haunting my nightmares, and I hope you guys enjoyed me getting mad about it. What is the worst FNAF game you've ever played? Maybe it was Jolly. Maybe it was Mac Tonight. Maybe it was even Fang's Pizza and Theater. All valid answers, but let me ask you to dig even deeper in your mind for a terrible FNAF game that you've played. Think back to the time you spent scrolling through FNAF games made in Scratch when you were supposed to be doing your work in high school. Think of going on Game Jolt and the FNAF tab and pressing new and just picking a game at random. Think of any game that somebody who made a FNAF game has asked a YouTuber to make a video about. These are specifically the type of games I'm referring to. Do you have one in mind, or have you completely wiped them all from your memory? Well, today I have a new one to forcefully shove back into your noggin. Today, we're going to be talking about a game called Fredbear's Backstory. As I'm sure you know, I've been playing FNAF for a long time, so I've played many games. However, it's very seldom that I find a game that made me upset in the way that Fredbear's Backstory did. So sit back, relax, and let's jump into the worst FNAF game you've never heard of. Let's dive right into night one. This game has so much to talk about and so much about it that I just don't like. So let's begin by starting at the start, because where else would I start? Night one begins and immediately I'm already upset. Why is that, you might ask? Well, I've got a quick question for you. When you're listening to the phone call of a FNAF game, aka the thing that is supposed to teach you how to deal with the problems you're about to face, when you're listening to these phone calls, do you like to be able to hear them? Well, if you answered yes to that question, then you're going to be saddened to hear that you won't be able to hear a damn thing this phone guy says. He is so incredibly quiet, and everything else in the game is so incredibly loud. I truly have no idea how the dev of this game thought this sounded good, because it really doesn't.
To give you a recap, I am a paranormal investigator. I was hired by the owner of the establishment a while ago to check up on this place after hours. I may have discovered some odd occurrences here. Well, I didn't begin my show. It's these sounds, the hunting and nocturnal animals. They feel uneasy here.
And because of us not being able to hear anything the phone guy is saying to us, we're left with being forced to figure out all of the tools at our disposal, and more importantly, all of the threats all by ourselves. Hooray! This is gonna be so fun! Now is usually the point in time where I would start talking about the tools at our disposal. However, something about this game is that there are a lot of tools at our disposal, and it would probably take me a good 10 minutes to talk about all of them right now, so I'm not going to do that. Instead, we'll talk about the mechanics as they become relevant. However, I will still talk about the basics. Of course, we have a camera system that has so many cameras on it, I think I would rather kill myself than think about it right now. In our office, we have a mask as well. Awesome. We'll see a massive hallway in front of us, and we can turn in 2 different directions. The first will show us a vent, and in the other direction, we'll actually be able to see Foxy, which isn't scary at all, and then a door that we can close. Fantastic. And yes, there's still a shitload more mechanics to talk about, and a shitload of animatronics that will become active. Speaking of animatronics, now is probably the time we should start talking about what it is they do and how they're going to decide to enter our internal organs. Well, quite a few characters get introduced on this night, so this is really a matter of where do I start? I'd honestly prefer not to start because this game is honestly one of the most rage-inducing I've ever played, but alas, I have to choose, so I'm going to start by talking about Spring Freddy, a character whose name you've probably never heard before in your entire life. Spring Freddy has a very basic mechanic. He starts on camera 1 on stage. To keep things as simple as possible, you do not want Spring Freddy to leave this stage. It will not be fun if he does. Thankfully, whenever he does leave the stage, a warning will appear in the top corner of the screen. When you see this error, all you have to do is go to camera 1 and press the change song button in the bottom corner. This will lure Spring Freddy's fat ass back to the stage and you will remain safe. I personally believe that the reason they call him Spring Freddy is because his ass is so big that when he jumps on it, he bounces back up like a spring. He's got springs in his ass. He's ugly and a fat. Anyways, enough of that. I just had to throw at least one fat joke in the first quarter of the video. And let's just say I'm satisfied with myself. The next character introduced on this night is Spring Bonnie, aka a character with a name you probably actually do recognize. And Spring Bonnie is the character that will begin the onslaught of introducing new mechanics that this game has. So let's jump right into it with a smile on our faces. Except the side effect is, it's not a smile at all. Spring Bonnie will start on camera 1, just like Spring Freddy. From there, he will move to camera 10. Shortly after that, you will hear a vent banging sound. And from that point, that means he either moved to vent 1 on camera 11 or vent 2 on camera 13. All you have to do is check which vent he entered and seal it off. But of course, as I'm sure you could have guessed, these vents are not very nice, and you can't just leave them closed the entire night or they'll overheat, and then Spring Bonnie will put his tongue all over your feet. Bars, don't play with me. Finally, the last threat introduced on this night is Bonnie. Regular Bonnie this time, since for some reason we have the spring variants and the regular variants this time around, which I personally happen to just love the sound of. Bonnie will start on camera 2, which you will see has another stage with regular Chica and Freddy as well, but we'll talk about them a bit later. Bonnie will move from camera 2 to camera 9. Once in camera 9, at random, you may hear him do Jordan's signature shimmy. When you hear this means he's currently hopping down the old bunny trail directly to your office door to attempt to run his tongue down your unshaven treasure trail with Dorito crumbs left in it. Disgusting, by the way. Obviously, all you have to do is quickly turn around and close this door and Bonnie will run back to the stage. So there we go. That's all of the characters introduced on night 1. And we have a lot more to talk about in night 2. You may be thinking that what I've mentioned already seems pretty boring, but I promise you, it's about to get a lot more interesting. And by a lot more interesting, I mean I'm about to do a lot more complaining, which I happen to know you guys absolutely love. Moving on to night 2, we don't nearly have as many threats to talk about. However, don't let that fool you, as it's just one less threat than last night, meaning that on night 2, we already have 5 threats to deal with. Is that not fucking insane? I know that other games have done worse to me, but like, I'm really sitting back and thinking about it. 5 enemies on night 2 when I can't hear the phone guy explain to me how to deal with them? This is brutal. The first character we'll talk about is Freddy. Normal Freddy this time. He introduces a brand new mechanic to us. His main goal is to get to your office through the giant open chasm in front of you. The way he gets there is pretty simple. He'll start in camera 2 on stage. From there, he'll move to camera 3 and from there he will just appear in your hallway. Now I want to pause for just a moment and explain to you why exactly this game is going to get as hard as it does in the future, and it's exactly for the reason I just explained. Freddy moves twice and he's already in attack mode. This is the case for several of the characters. So few movement opportunities to already needing to be dealt with is insanity. And when you have 5 characters all doing that at the same time, it's going to get stressful very quickly. Anyways, what do we do once Freddy whips out his stinky smegma-filled chode out in front of us in the hallway? Well, this is where we get to talk about a new mechanic. Looking in our office, you'll notice a locker in front of us. Inside of this locker is an endoskeleton. What we need to do when Freddy appears in the hallway is to get out of his line of sight. That makes sense. How do we do this? Maybe we hide under the desk. Maybe we put the mask on. No, you see, that would make too much sense. What we actually need to do is take the endoskeleton out of the locker and put it in front of Freddy. That way he can't see us because we'll be behind the endoskeleton. Now, this brings up several questions. To start, do you know how heavy an endoskeleton is? I feel like Freddy would kill us by the time we moved the endoskeleton over to in front of him. And speaking of that, Freddy 100% would see us moving the fucking giant robot in front of him. So why is it even tricking him? And finally, if we have to go over to the locker to take the endoskeleton out, then we're already standing by the wall out of Freddy's line of sight. So why even waste our energy dragging this big bitch over there? Why not just stand next to the wall and call it a fucking day? I just don't understand it. All right, enough complaining about Freddy. Let's move on to the other threat this night introduces, Foxy. And no, it's not the Foxy behind you. That's another Foxy. This Foxy I'm talking about is on the cameras. So who's the Foxy behind us? How about just shut your dirty whore mouth and don't worry about it? Sounds good? Great. Foxy will begin on camera 6. From there, he will move to camera 9. His goal is the same as Bonnie's, attack you through your door. So once you hear his classic footstep sounds, all you have to do is quickly close the door before he licks your butt crack like an envelope and seals it with his cream stamp of approval. Aren't I just the best at painting mental images? Yeah, I know I am. So yeah, Foxy is just Bonnie with pretty much no changes at all except the first 2 cameras he's in. Pretty lazy overall, but then again, we're playing a FNAF game surrounding Fredbear. There's already 400,000 of those on Game Jolt, and maybe 6 of them are actually good and unique. Spoiler alert, this is not one of those games. This one is just really fucking hard. However, you won't notice the difficulty of this game at this point in playing it. Something you'll quickly notice about this game is how terrible the difficulty curve is. Animatronics are honestly hardly moving at this point, but very soon and out of nowhere, that will ramp up and absolutely turn your exit-only hole into an entrance-only hole for robots. But with that, we can move on to night 3. And it's on night 3 where I start to get sad that there's no post-night minigames. I know I pretty much always bitch and complain about post-night minigames on this channel, but in all honesty, they're probably some of my favorite things to talk about. Even if they are always repetitive and boring as fuck, at least I have something fun to complain about. Night 3 once again follows the trend of introducing one less threat on each night, as night 3 only introduces 1, and holy shit is it boring. Literally just being a copy-paste character of a character we've already seen. We're going to play a little game though to make it just a little bit more fun. Here's how the game's gonna work. I'm going to start explaining what this character does, and you'll have to comment which character they're copying as fast as you can. Ready? All right, here we go. Night 3 introduces Chica. This game follows the trend of using the withered models of the animatronics, except choosing to make them not withered, which I do honestly think makes a lot more sense than what Scott did. But then again, I think we all know that in terms of continuity and story writing, Scott Cawthon had absolutely no fucking idea what he was doing. Anyways, we're talking about Chica, so let's keep doing that. Chica starts on camera 2. She jumps to camera 3 before appearing inside of the hallway in front of you. When she does, you'll have to get out of her line of sight by taking the endoskeleton out of the locker and setting it in front of her. If you still haven't figured out who Chica copies, then you may want to go to the hospital and get checked out for mental retardation, because we just fucking talked about Freddy and how that's exactly what he does, quite literally with the exact same movement pattern as well. I want everybody to listen closely with me, because this is a big tip for anybody wanting to make or that is currently making a FNAF game. Please, for the love of God, unless your game has an ungodly amount of characters, do not under any circumstance make 2 characters do the exact same thing. Actually, fuck it. Never make 2 characters do the exact same thing, because literally, what is even the point of that? And I do want to be clear, there is a big difference between having 2 identical mechanics and having 2 different characters interact with them. A perfect example is Bonnie and Chica from FNAF 1. They both go to a door and you just need to close it. However, the key difference here is that the only reason they're identical is because you have 2 identical mechanics. Those mechanics being the doors. So having 2 characters that do the exact same thing works and makes sense. A good example of what doesn't make sense is 90% of the characters from Five Nights at Freddy's 2 that all use the mask mechanic. That is a single mechanic that everyone uses, therefore it is boring as fuck and bad as fuck, and you shouldn't do that because holy shit, it's so boring. I don't understand what makes people think having multiple characters do the exact same thing is at all interesting in any way at all, because it just isn't. Maybe you could make an argument that having a boss character that does what every character does is an exception, but I still think that even that boss mechanic is becoming way too overused now. But maybe I'm just an old cynical man, who knows? One more thing about this night before we move on to night 4 is that still at this point you'll notice that this game is incredibly easy, hardly having to do much at all, really only having the 2 hallway animatronics move quickly. But I promise you, it's going to change. We all know I wouldn't be talking about this game if it didn't. I don't talk about boring stinkers unless there's a really good reason to. Night 4 introduces the final 2 threats this game has to offer, bringing the total to 8, and they both suck dick and I hate them. But we'll talk about that in a second. Alright, 1 second is up. Let's talk about them. The first one I want to bring up is Spring Foxy, because I guess there's a spring version of every character in this game except for Chica because she's a woman and we all hate women here. Spring Foxy, thankfully, does something different from the other characters and introduces a new mechanic. However, do not let that fool you. In no way does that mean that his mechanic is at all interesting in any way, because it most certainly is not. Hold up, Dxtr. Didn't we already talk about Spring Foxy? No, dumbass. We talked about normal Foxy, and no, Spring Foxy is also not the Foxy that's behind us. So who is that Foxy, you might be asking? How about you suck the piss out of my dick? How does that sound, huh? Spring Foxy's goal is to go through your vents. However, he doesn't do it in the way that the other vent characters do. He goes through the middle vent on camera 12. This vent, as you'll notice, has no door to close. So what exactly do we have to do if we can't stop him from getting into the office? The answer is load around into the chamber, point it at your head, and paint the ceiling. I lied, of course that's not what you do. It's fucking Foxy, bro. Do you think this game was about to get creative? Because it wasn't. All you have to do is wait for Spring Foxy to make it to the vent in your office and hold your flashlight on him until his corny is hurt and he scampers away like a scamper. Very similar to how a runner runs and a fisher fishes. What the fuck did I just write? Like what does that mean? Like a fisher? Am I retarded? Okay, whatever. So yeah, while Spring Foxy might have a new mechanic in this game, he in no way is interesting. However, this does add another direction you now have to constantly check. And while even on night 4, this game isn't very hard, once it ramps up, you'll really be wishing Rip-Off Piss Foxy wasn't existent in this game. But for now, let's move on to night 5. Just kidding, we still have another character to talk about. Did you forget that? I bet you didn't. I bet you're probably sleeping right now. So adorable. Thanks for giving me watch time. It makes me very happy. Mwah. The other threat introduced on this night is, of course, Fredbear. Let's just hope that this game doesn't follow the trend of literally every other FNAF game that uses Fredbear as the main character and decides to make his mechanic easily the most boring and uninspired of the whole cast. Hate to burst your bubble, but of course Fredbear is easily the most boring character ever designed. Wouldn't you want your main character to be the most interesting? I feel like you would, but no. Here we are about to talk about a character that could put you to sleep with how fucking boring he is. Fredbear's goal is to attack you through the large hallway, probably because his big, fat, stinky, sweaty, ugly, slimy, greasy, grimy, pungent, putrid, rancid, poop dick, shardy, farty, large and hearty, smelly, icky, huge, stink, dicky belly is so large and rotund, it's the only area of the entire building he can fit through. Also, I'm not gonna lie, this version of Fredbear kind of reminds me of those animatronics you'd see in one of those FNAF World Challenge slop videos. You know, those thumbnails that all look the exact same. I can just picture it now. A scared looking drawn chibi version of Fredbear on the left, an overly blurry screenshot of a battle from FNAF World as the background, and 3 FNAF World battle buttons on the side with pixel font in each of them saying something like, way too hard. And hard is in red to really let you know that it's about to be hard. Anyways, where was I? Oh yeah, talking about boring old Fredbear. Fredbear, as I've mentioned, will attack you through the main hallway. Except this time around, the endoskeleton won't work. Why's that, you might be asking? Well, I managed to decipher what the phone guy said, and it only took me a half an hour because, once again, it's fucking impossible to hear this guy. The reason why the endoskeleton method doesn't work on Fredbear is because he's too big and will be able to see around the endoskeleton. I'm sorry. Not good enough of a reason because both Chica and Freddy could both just pull this bullshit right here. But anyways, I guess let's pretend like that just makes sense for a moment. What do we need to do to defend ourselves from Fredbear? Well, phone guy says we have to hide our face. Awesome. So we can just turn around, right? Well, no, that gets you killed. What you have to do is just put on the fucking mask, and that's literally it. Oh my god. How uncreative can we be, guys? This is insanity. The main threat of the entire game uses a mechanic so fucking boring it's forgettable. Why? Just why? Why, when devs are making a game, do they just insist on making your characters so fucking boring? You wonder why people don't stroke your game's dick like they do with games like Juniors or Tycoon Sons or Locked at Freddy's. Do you want to know the real reason? It's not because you just got unlucky with people seeing your game. It's not because another big release happened to come out around the same time. It's not because a YouTuber shit all over it and now nobody wants to play it. It's not because you're just a starving artist and people have yet to see your talent. No, it's because your game is boring horseshit. I've seen plenty of games worse than this one. This game is nowhere even close to the top 50 worst FNAF games I've ever played. I could make a whole video about those. No, because this game looks how it does is the only reason I haven't snapped my fucking monitor in half. You can't just make shit and expect people to eat it up. Put some fucking thought into it. We as the FNAF community have some of the most talented and creative people I've ever met. When we try, we make amazing things. But I'll be honest, I can see why other communities don't take us seriously at all. It's because of the overwhelming amount of dog shit, fucking degradable slop. Do something different! Try something new! Think outside of the box! Do something you've never seen before! Make something that you would play yourself! Because I guarantee that half of these fuck-ass devs are just throwing some shit together in hopes that it's played by Fusion Z Gamer or Dawko. Be creative! Please! That's all anybody wants. People want to see something new, or at least something old with a new twist. You don't need to make something as high quality as the games that are being made by the Radiant team. Look at Five Nights at Wario's. I personally dislike those games, but they're not garbage, and they were made by one person who just had some cool ideas. We need more people like Triple Wario, because games like this that are just a copy of an overused idea are making the entire community look lazy. Anyways, let's move on to Night 5. Now, I'll be honest with you guys. I never actually beat Night 5, and there's a good reason for it. For those of you unaware, I've recently begun having a pretty serious health problem. I don't exactly know what it is yet, but it's been seriously affecting my ability to create videos the way that I want to be able to create them. I can't play games for more than 30 minutes max without getting incredibly sick. Horrible migraines that last for hours, nausea that makes it impossible to eat or drink without throwing up. It really has been miserable for me the last month or so. That's why you'll notice Dxtr Black, Gray, and Blue have stopped posting videos. I just can't make them right now. Even writing Dxtr White videos has been getting incredibly complicated for me since I can't look at my screen and write for more than a half hour without needing to sit in dark darkness for 2 hours for my migraine to go away. I'm on several medications and I've been in and out of the doctors constantly, but nobody can tell me what's wrong with me, and I don't see it getting better anytime soon. And with the sheer amount of whipping around you have to do on night 5 and especially night 6, there's just no physical way I'd be able to complete it without seriously hurting myself. As embarrassing as that is to say, I'm now a FNAF YouTuber that can't really play FNAF anymore, and that sucks. But enough being all sad and retarded, we've got a FNAF game to complain about. Night 5 obviously doesn't add anything new to the overall gameplay loop. However, it's on this night where the game really starts to amp up the difficulty, like by a lot. The characters must have all snorted a line of Nesquik before we clocked in this time around, because it's literally some of the most outrageous looking gameplay I've ever seen in my life. Huge shout out to Indie Fuel. He's the guy who's been playing in the footage you've been seeing throughout this entire video. He's an awesome guy, and you should totally go subscribe. But that's not where the worst of it begins. To talk about the worst and most degrading bullshit this game has to offer comes in the form of what treason takes place in Night 6. Just take a look at your screen right now. The sheer amount of movement going on in this night is completely ridiculous. And don't even get me started on the amount of sound cues that you'll be hearing. Take a listen. And that is what this game looks like and sounds like throughout the entire night. And you want to hear the best part? A little piece of information I haven't mentioned up until this point. The nights in this game are long as fuck. I'm talking like close to 9 minutes long. It's completely unnecessary. To go from 9 minutes of the most boring shit you've ever played in your life to 9 minutes of the most stressful, headache-inducing shit you've ever seen in your life is a wild ride. And do you want to know what you get for completing Night 6? What is it that you get to enjoy? Well, if your answer to that question was absolutely fucking nothing, then you'd be correct. No final cutscene, no story, nothing. Just booted back to the title screen. Go look at the extras menu, fucker. Like, excuse me? What are you talking about? It's not 2014 anymore, bro. Give us something interesting. Maybe there is actually some baller lore in this game throughout the phone calls. But you want to know who doesn't know? Me. And you want to know why I don't know? Because once again, for like the 90th time, I couldn't hear a fucking word the phone guy was saying throughout this game. Help a brother out, please. I'm like a starving child over here begging for some more, and I'm just getting short piled down my throat. But yeah, that's seriously all this game has to offer. From what I could tell, no secrets, no hidden mini games, nothing. Maybe I'm just spoiled from all the newer fan games doing insane shit with a bunch of post-game content, but post-game content is what I love. I personally think the post-game of any game should be the most enjoyable part. I always like to look back to Pokemon games for an example of that. Take Pokemon Black and White 2. The post-game in those games are some of the most enjoyable shit I've ever played. Or even looking at FNAF 2 for a more relatable reference. The post-game in FNAF 2 was great. If you take out the fact that the gameplay loop is garbage, the pre-built custom night challenges, unlocking the plushies on your desk, it's fun. It feels enjoyable and really scratches that completionist brain I have. But this game just has nothing. It almost feels like the dev had other stuff planned for this game, but either ran out of time or ran out of passion to get it done. But what do I know? I just complain about FNAF games. It's not like I've ever made my own or anything. Let's just not look at that, okay? But with that, that's all Fredbear's backstory has to offer. Overall, I think this game looks nice, and I think the atmosphere is good, but that's about where my positive feedback for this game ends. This game just feels so uninspired, and for a game that's literally named after the backstory of one of the most integral characters to the FNAF story, there sure is literally no backstory given about that character whatsoever. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think this is actually one of the best FNAF games you've ever seen and thinks it needs way more recognition? What is really the hardest Five Nights at Freddy's game of all time? Hopeless Pursuit? One Night at Frogger's? Who really knows for sure? But I think when people think of that question, they tend to think strictly about max modes, which I think is a little disingenuous. I think there's a big difference between the hardest FNAF game and the hardest max mode. For example, I think FNAF 1 is much harder than FNAF 4, but FNAF 4's max mode is undoubtedly harder than FNAF 1's max mode. So saying FNAF 4 is harder than FNAF 1 just doesn't really make sense. And when you look at challenging FNAF games in that way, which is the most challenging all the way through? I think we all know the one single FNAF game that comes to mind. It needs no introduction, and I've been getting asked to play it for over a year at this point. That game is Post Shift 2 pre-patch version 1.0.0. I never wanted to make this video, yet here I am. This is by far the longest, most painful video I have ever made. So shut up, relax, as we jump right in to Post Shift 2. Before we even start talking about Night 1, there's something I need to get out of the way. I'm sure everybody already knows, but this game is literally massive. So big, in fact, that the developer had to export the game in 2 separate files since the entire thing couldn't be exported in one. Another thing I want to get out of the way really early is that I'm going to be very negative in this video. What else is new, right? But I do want to make it clear before I even say anything is that just because I say mean things about this game doesn't mean I don't appreciate it. People call it the hardest FNAF game ever made, even knowing that there are a whole lot more that are more difficult. This game earned that title for a reason, and it's not because it's a bad game. It was made by one guy over the span of 3 years. That is impressive, and this game is impressive. All right, now that I got that out of the way, and we know Reddit is going to ignore it when they bitch and moan about me not stroking the dick of every game I cover, we can actually start talking about the game the way I would any other game. Let's just start off by talking about the sheer size of the map in this game. The first 3 nights take place in an area of the game called Aisle 1. Apparently, just staying in the office with our feet nailed to the floor was just too easy. So now we have to walk around the whole fucking building as slowly as possible. I'll get to that in a second. Let's go over the room that we'll actually be starting in first. It's called the souvenirs area, and it's completely worthless as pretty much nothing happens here. However, it is in this room where we're greeted to hands down the most terrifying thing in this entire game. This massive fucking text box. This text box right here is how the game explains its mechanics to you. No phone call, no figuring it out for yourself, just dropping a goddamn novel on you and expecting you to read the whole thing. You might think to yourself, you know, I play a lot of FNAF games. I'm sure I don't actually need to read this. I'm sure I'll be able to figure it out. No, the fuck you won't. This is hands down the most confusing game I've ever played in my entire life. I'm both excited to talk about it and not excited to talk about it because, oh my god, I want to complain, but my poor little fingers are going to kill me since I'm going to be writing this entire video in one sitting, and I quite literally type out every single word that I read in these videos. The only place you can go from this room is the aisle end. Hands down, the most important room throughout this game. This is because it connects directly to 2 other incredibly important rooms, the sanitation room and the construction room. The sanitation room is to the left and the construction room is to the right. It's about right now where I want to talk about the elephant in the room when it comes to talking about moving in this game. That being long as fuck, shit ass, fuck ass animations that play whenever you want to go anywhere. It's almost like every time the player moves, an earthquake that levels a 5 on the Richter scale goes off, causing our player to shake and jolt their head in every possible direction, making me so motion sick I was unable to beat this game myself without throwing up. And no, I'm not joking. This is quite literally the reason I avoided this game for so long, and yes, I seriously didn't beat it because I was getting so sick from these animations. And the best part? These animations take so long to play out, and the map is large so that a majority of the time when you need to respond to something quickly on the other side of the map, it'll take a solid 30 seconds to do that, making your blood pressure go through the roof every single time. To get to the sanitation room, like I said, you have to go left from the aisle end. However, you don't just have to sit through one movement animation, you actually have to sit through 2, because the first room you enter is a filler room and is literally completely fucking useless. Guys, I'm already mad, and we've only just begun. And of course, once you actually get to the sanitation room, you're hit with another text box the size of your mom's ass. Now, getting to the construction room, I'll tell you, is actually pretty funny. Once again, like I've already said, all you have to do is turn right from the aisle end, and this time you don't have to go through a useless room room. Once you get to the construction room, you have the option of going into a back room area of the construction room. However, it's useless. So useless, in fact, that the game actually tells you that you should never go there because there's quite literally no point. So like, why the fuck did you even add it, bro? What were you thinking? But even then, we're still not done talking about the map. I'm almost done with the 3rd page of this script, and I haven't even finished talking about the places we can go yet. I get the sneaking suspicion this is going to be a really long one, guys. Buckle up. Going back to the aisle end, we can turn around to enter the temporary aisle. From there, we can move forward into another section of the temporary aisle. And this section, and only this section of the temporary aisle, can we look in between some shelves to see if there are any animatronics getting ready to finger my butt. But I'm gonna talk about those characters a bit later. We still have a lot more to talk about first. From there, we can move forward into the promotional area. And finally, from this area, we can turn left and check if any characters are holding the lube in their hands, looking at me up and down and licking their lips and shit. With the building being out of the way now, we have to bring up something very important. That being, how do we actually complete this night? Because unlike most FNAF games, this game decided to be a little bit different in quite literally the worst way possible. In order to complete a night in Post Shift 2, you actually have to do 2 things. The first is pretty simple, just survive until 6 a.m. However, the next thing you have to do really makes that first task seem pretty pointless. You have to complete 3 different tasks around the building using something you have called a halfless repair drone. And this drone is controlled by our employee maintenance monitor, or EMM as I will be referring to it from now on. Now, we need to just take a second to relax. Guys, if you're not ready for some old school, classic Dexter White complaining, I highly suggest you come back to this video a bit later because that's going to be what approximately the remaining of this video is going to be. The requirement of using your EMM to complete tasks brings up hands down the biggest problem this game has to offer. It tells you literally fucking nothing. Do you want to know how to open the EMM? Well, it's pretty easy. All you have to do is hover over and click the left corner of your screen. Dexter, is that the top or bottom corner? Would you believe me if I told you the game didn't tell you? And better yet, would you believe me if I told you that quite literally the only time it tells you how to open the EMM is in the first room of the game in 1 sentence in a giant paragraph of text and literally never again? Would you believe me if I said that? Well, you should, because that's literally what happens. How in the name of fuck did the developer think that this was a good way to explain this to the player? Once you leave this room for the first time, this guide will never appear again. So if you either don't read that sentence or forget what it said, you're just not even going to know what the EMM is. This is insanity. But maybe I'm nitpicking, even though I know I'm not. Let's continue. Just kidding. I'm still not done complaining yet. Do you want to know something even worse than what I just told you? After you manage to open up the EMM, the game doesn't tell you that the repair drones are important. Well, it kind of does, but it doesn't make it obvious. The only place this game tells you that the drone is important is after you click the drone repair button. Then, once in the repair drone menu, if you look at the text box on the side, only in the 3rd paragraph does it tell you that this drone is required to complete the night. Actually, what the fuck is going on right now? Someone tell me I'm not over-exaggerating. This is terrible. You people wanted me to play this. Why? However, at least the drone tasks we have to complete are super easy. The length of the nights in this game are 6 minutes and 30 seconds, so not that bad at all. A lot better than what I was actually expecting. All 3 drone tasks you have to complete are the same and really don't require you to do anything at all. All you have to do is open the EMM, go to the repair drone, view, and then start repairing. The repair process will take place in the background while you do whatever else it is you need to do. Each task takes 1 minute and 15 seconds to complete, and once it's done, you can go back into the menu and start the next task. After doing all 3 and surviving until 6 a.m., we can move on to night 2. But wait, haven't you forgotten? We're playing a FNAF game, and I still have yet to mention a single animatronic, even though we're over 10 minutes into this video. Is that not crazy? We're this far in, and I haven't even said a character's name yet. Well, no better time than the present, that is what they say. This night introduces 3 main threats, the first being Revenant Freddy. He's probably the easiest of the 3 characters that are introduced on this night. To start, he will appear in the promotional room leaning up against a shelf. When he's here, we really don't have to worry, as the game tells us that this just means he's getting ready to attack us. When he enters this phase, one of 2 random sound cues will play, and they sound like this. Now we get to talk about how stupid the rest of the way Revenant Freddy attacks really is. Once Revenant Freddy decides to attack us, he will move to the other part of the promotional room, that part being that direction I told you that you can turn in a bit earlier. Once Revenant Freddy is here, that means he's about to kill you. However, for some reason, he plays no sound cue when moving into this position. You know, the position he gets into that actually matters. Yeah, you just have to figure that part out by yourself. Sound cue for something retarded? Yes, please. Sound cue for something important? Nah. Now we get to talk about something else that is incredibly frustrating. That being how to deal with him. The way to do it is simple. Just go to the aisle end, open the EMM, select a drone. No, not the repair drone. This is a different drone, and then target Revenant Freddy and send it off. The actual problem with this is a common recurring theme this game has, literally never telling us fucking anything at all. In order to learn that this is what we need to do, we need to open the EMM and then click on the drone to read 3 paragraphs. And that's not the end of it. In these 3 paragraphs, where exactly it explains Revenant Freddy is probably a total of 1 to 2 sentences long. What the fuck? Like I already said, Revenant Freddy is the easiest character on this night. We still have 2 more to talk about, and I promise you, both of them are no less confusing. The next character to mention is Minotaur Freddy. What does Minotaur mean? Well, it stands for Micro-Implemented Neural Activated Transferable Energy Rotors. Damn. So tell me, Dexter, what does Micro-Implemented Neural Activated Transferable Energy Rotors Freddy do? I'm so glad you asked. Micro-Implemented Neural Activated Transferable Energy Rotors Freddy can attack you in 2 different places, in both the sanitation room and the construction room. Let's talk about the construction room attack first. Once Micro-Implemented Neural Activated Transferable Energy Rotors Freddy arrives there, this sound cue will play. Once that sound cue plays, we need to drop everything we're doing and go to the construction area just so that we can watch Micro-Implemented Neural Activated Transferable Energy Rotors Freddy climb out of a hole in the floor. Once Micro-Implemented Neural Activated Transferable Energy Rotors Freddy climbs out of the hole, a 15-second timer will appear on the screen telling us to go to the promotional area. If you don't get to the promotional area by the time that timer runs out, Micro-Implemented Neural Activated Transferable Energy Rotors Freddy is going to butt bang us, and we just don't want that at all. Once we get to the promotional room in time, we will survive the attack for some reason. I don't really know why this makes us survive, but it does. Cool. Now, what about the other attack that Micro-Implemented Neural Activated Transferable Energy Rotors Freddy can do? Once again, this attack happens in the sanitation room. Once he appears in this room, another sound cue will play letting us know he's arrived that sounds like this. Now, this attack is where it gets confusing. By the way, if you couldn't tell, both of the sound cues he plays sound exactly the same. They are slightly different, but I highly doubt you'd be able to tell them apart. Here, let's actually play a game. Now that I've shown you both of the sound cues, let's play one of them and you tell me which one it was. All right, did you make your guess as to which room that would mean Micro-Implemented Neural Activated Transferable Energy Rotors Freddy went to? Well, if you said the construction room, you'd be completely fucking wrong, because that's the sound cue he plays when he goes to the sanitation room. Anyways, once he's in the sanitation room and you get there, depending on how fast you got there will change the way this attack will play out. If you got there super quickly after the sound cue went off, when you open this vent, he'll look like he always does. Show up a little later, and for some reason, he'll have a rabbit ear. Why? I really don't fucking know. And if we wait a really long time before opening the vent, he'll look like another character we'll mention later, Revenant Bonnie. Why does he literally transform into another character? I actually have no idea. It makes no sense at all, but let's just deal with it. After seeing which version of Micro-Implemented Neural Activated Transferable Energy Rotors Freddy we got, we'll have to open up the EMM and answer 4 questions. These questions being, does your Minotaur have a rabbit ear yet? Does it reside within the cleaning area area currently? Does it almost look like a completely different character? And would you like us to revert the Minotaur's form? Obviously, depending on which version of micro-implemented neural activated transferable energy rotors Freddy that appeared, we will have to answer these questions differently. But if we answer them all correctly, then micro-implemented neural activated transferable energy rotors Freddy will leave and we'll be safe to continue doing what we were doing. And by the way, don't worry, I'll stop saying the full acronym now. I'll just be calling him Minotaur Freddy from now on. Now we get to talk about the final and most annoying threat this night introduces, Minotaur Foxy. Holy shit, this guy actually sucks so bad it's hard to breathe just thinking about him. Minotaur Foxy, like Minotaur Freddy, can attack from two different places. He can either go to the promotional area or can go to that special place in the shelves we can look through in the temporary aisle. In both locations, you have to deal with him in the same way. It's just finding him that's the problem. Speaking of, once he spawns, he'll play this sound cue. Once we find Minotaur Foxy, all we have to do is open up the EMM and select Voice Constructor. From here, we will be given a sentence output. We will have to reconstruct this given sentence using the 12 buttons in the middle of the screen. The sentence we have to reconstruct will be different every attack, and this game insists on making this as difficult as possible. For example, a common phrase you'll see is "to please." However, the button you need to press uses the number 2, while the sentence will always read TWO spelled out. It's confusing for the sake of being confusing, and I fucking hate that. Also, I'm sure it's obvious, but none of the ways we defend ourselves from characters in this game make any sense at all. I'm not going to waste your guys' time by talking about how they don't make sense every time we bring up a character, but just know I do think they're all stupid. Also, just one more thing I want to complain about before we move on. This game tells you that the stupid shelf place exists and that Minotaur Foxy can appear there literally in one sentence in the middle of a text box in the tutorial. This is by far the biggest problem this game has. I know I've said it a lot, but it just doesn't fucking tell you anything at all. One more thing I have to mention before we move on are the bonus objectives in this game, because of course this game has those. 2 of the bonus objectives on this night are quite literally impossible to miss as long as the night is completed. Those tasks being survive Revenant Freddy twice and survive Minotaur Foxy once. And that will always happen on the first night, so you don't even have to think about it. The only other 2 tasks on this night can be failed, however, it's pretty unlikely that you will. The first requires us to beat the night optimally, and there's actually something in the night that tells you how optimal the night has been so far. And the way you keep it optimal is just by doing the drone tasks as fast as possible. The only other objective on this night is completing the night at 6 a.m. with less than 10 excess seconds. This is referring to the fact that after you reach 6 a.m., the night won't end until you finish your tasks. Once you reach 6 a.m., the game will start an excess seconds timer. So as long as you complete all 3 of the drone tasks before 6 a.m. happens, then you'll complete this objective, which, considering the tasks only take 1 minute and 15 seconds and the night is 6 minutes and 30 seconds long, this really shouldn't be a problem. Alright, with all of that out of the way, it's finally time to move on to night 2. Holy shit. We're just over halfway through the length of a normal Dxtr White video, and we're only on to night 2. Editor, I'm so sorry. Night 2 is completed in the exact same way as night 1. Finish all 3 repair drone tasks and survive until 6 a.m. However, for some reason, night 2 is 7 minutes long instead of 6 minutes and 30 seconds. Why is this the case? I have no idea. But don't let yourself get fooled into thinking this night is going to be as easy as night 1, because it's not at all. Because the AI ramping of these characters is actually ridiculous. And on top of that, we actually get 2 more characters thrown on us as well. The first threat introduced on this night is Minotaur Baby, and she is probably the easiest out of all the animatronics we've seen so far. Occasionally throughout the night, you will hear this sound cue. This tells us that Minotaur Baby has appeared in the souvenirs area. Yeah, I kind of lied before when I said this room was useless. Minotaur Baby is actually the only reason it isn't useless. Something about Minotaur Baby is that she is way more forgiving than every other character in this game. Once you hear her sound cue play, you have a good 40 seconds before she actually kills you, giving you plenty of time to check for all other characters before going over to deal with her. The way we deal with her also isn't too hard. Once we see her standing in the corner, all we have to do is open up the EMM and go to the motion state tab. Once in this tab, we will press the Run Memories button, and then we can start cycling through Baby's memories. Once we find one that is happy and not depressing, we will have to lock that memory, and that will make miniature Baby go away. But of course, this game has to follow the pattern of not teaching us a fucking thing, as this game neglects to tell us which of her 10 possible memories are positive. Spoiler alert, only 3 of them are, and this is what they look like. What about these images scream positive? I have no fucking idea, but you're just meant to figure it out, as once again, the game literally doesn't tell you ever. All it does say is that some memories have the possibility of being positive, so it seems that even the dev doesn't know why these would be positive. The only other threat introduced on this night is Revenant Bonnie. Not the weird version of Miniature Freddy we saw earlier, I mean just actually Revenant Bonnie this time. The way you know he's about to attack you is very simple, as not only does a really fucking loud sound cue play, but also a counter will appear in the top corner of the screen. Revenant Bonnie wants to play a game called One-Eyed Seek, which is this game's version of a find them on the camera mechanic, because even though there are no cameras in this game, it somehow still finds a way to make the worst fucking thing in the entire world. Once Revenant Bonnie starts his attack, the counter will randomize a number between 1 and 5. This is how many times you'll need to find Bonnie. So if you get lucky, you may only have to do it once, but if you're me, you'll have to do it 5 times every fucking time. Revenant Bonnie can spawn in 5 different areas at random: the souvenir room, the construction room, the hallway before the sanitation room, the second part of the temporary aisle, and then behind the shelf in the temporary aisle. There's no way for you to know which areas he goes to. You literally just have to guess, which, with how long the movement animations take in this game, I can promise you that Revenant Bonnie will quickly become your least favorite character. There's a reason I chose to put him in the thumbnail over anybody else. I fucking hate him. There is only literally one redeeming quality about Revenant Bonnie, and that's during an attack, he will not appear in the same area twice. Everything else about him is still RNG, and that sucks ass. I should also mention that he can be skipped by using a drone, just like Revenant Freddy. However, this drone has an incredibly small chance of actually working. So I mean, I guess do it while you're passing through looking for him, but you probably won't ever see it work. So let's go over all of the RNG that Revenant Bonnie has. Once he spawns, it's random how many times you'll have to find him. From there, it's random where he'll spawn and when he'll spawn there, so you could have him spawn on opposite sides of the map every single time. And on top of that, the item we can use to skip his attack is also completely random. This is amazing, guys. What a skill-based FNAF game. This is definitely a hard game and not just total RNG. And of course, now we get to start talking about the bonus objectives. The first one to get requires even more RNG, that being luring Revenant Bonnie away with the drone, which I just mentioned is incredibly rare to ever happen. So that's just awesome. The next bonus objective is finding both Revenant Freddy and Miniature Foxy in the promotional area. This is also RNG, since the Miniature Foxy only has a 50% chance to appear in the aisle shelf area instead of the promotional area. So yippee, we're gonna be here for the rest of our lives. The last 2 bonus objectives just require us to play like complete dog shit. The first has us complete the night with a lacking efficiency level, meaning that we just need to do the repair tasks really fucking slowly, and the second task being beating the night after we reach 6 a.m. So just let the clock reach 6 a.m. and then finish your last drone task. So these 2 objectives will probably be completed at the same time. Anyways, let's move on to night 3, shall we? The way we beat this night is exactly the same as night 2, so I won't touch on that. But there are another 2 characters added on this night, bringing the total up to 7. Fucking awesome. Love it. The actual threats introduced on this night are Remnant Chica and Remnant Foxy. And before we actually talk about them, I want to bring up something that confused me. For some reason, both Freddy and Bonnie have the name Revenant, while Chica and Foxy use the word Remnant. Why is there this change in their names? I don't have any idea, and from what I read on the wiki, it's not explicitly explained, so we're just gonna ignore it, and if I misspeak for the rest of the video and don't notice, I just don't give a fuck. But if you guys want to have fun, take a shot every time I mess it up. So let's talk about Remnant Chica first, since she's by far the easiest, but that doesn't exactly mean she's easy. And for those of you who have played this game before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Remnant Chica spawns in the construction room, but in the back area of it. Yeah, you know, that area of the construction room that the game itself told us we should never go to because it's useless. Usually I'm the one lying in these videos, but for some reason the game is the one doing the lying this time. Regardless, when Chica spawns, she will make this sound cue.
Lighting alteration detected at construction area.
Once we hear this sound cue, all we have to do is go to that corner of the construction room and stare at the hole in the floor until we see a yellow flash, which, yes, by the way, of course it's random how long this will take. Then after we see it, all we have to do is run back to the aisle end and launch a drone to distract her. So she is basically just Revenant Freddy in a different area. The only reason she's more frustrating than Revenant Freddy is because of where she's located. It takes so fucking long to get over there and so fucking long to get back that if literally any other character spawns while you're dealing with her, you are pretty much guaranteed to lose. The only other threat introduced on this night is of course Remnant Foxy, who, would you believe me, also uses that funny little area in the construction room that the game told us itself was fucking useless. Isn't that just revolutionary? I'm gonna make a FNAF game where the phone guy just fucking lies about how to deal with characters. I can just see it now. 5 Nights with Dxtr, where we have a phone guy tell us to close the door on a character, but what we actually have to do is cup our hands below our bare ass, squat down and take a shit in them, then play patty cake with the animatronic at our door. Except we're not gonna tell the player that's what we actually have to do, and we're just gonna hope that they figure out there's a poop patty cake button that's invisible in the corner of the screen until you hover over it with your mouse. God damn it, I hate this fucking game! Anyways, when Remnant Foxy spawns, he'll play this sound cue. When he does, he'll appear in the hole where Remnant Chica appears. You'll have to go over to him and look at him, then just like Remnant Chica, go deploy a drone for him. However, Remnant Foxy also has another possible way to attack us, and that's by crip walking up to us like some of the pedophiles you see on To Catch a Predator. Seriously, look at this predacious walk he has and tell me he's not using that hook to reel in some kid's ass on the down low. Anyways, once he does walk up to us, we'll have to open up our light module. This is not inside of our EMM. Instead, it's actually another invisible button that the game basically doesn't tell you about in the bottom right corner of the screen. Once you pull this up, all you have to do is press the 3 buttons on it in order, really slowly, and then Remnant Foxy will go away. Again, why does this work? Ride my dick like a bike, that's why. Anyways, those are the only new threats on this night, which means we're free to move on to the bonus objectives. The first and fourth objectives are pretty easy. The first has us complete the night with optimal efficiency, just like night 1, and the fourth requires us to use the drone to get rid of Remnant Foxy. By the way, this has a typo in the menu, so that's cool. The other 2 threats are pretty unique, however. The first tells us to use input lag on our monitor for 3 minutes during the night. I'll talk about that one in just a second because it's really fucking weird. So let's talk about the other one first. The other one being view Remnant Chica before she attacks you. Now, of course, while I was explaining her mechanic, never once did I say that you actually see her, and that's because you don't. However, once you get back to the aisle end, before deploying the drone, you can actually turn around and see Remnant Chica standing behind you. This is all you need to do. So not very difficult at all, but it's kind of cool, I guess. Anyways, now we can talk about the input lag objective, which is really weird. I've neglected to mention something pretty important up until this point, and that's that the EMM actually has a battery life. And the more you use it, the more it decreases because that's just how power works, dumbass. Input lag is a special mode you can put your EMM into that causes your EMM to use less power throughout the night. However, at the expense of your mouse just teleporting somewhere random around the screen at random whenever it feels like it. I've not mentioned this input lag option before either because it's like completely fucking useless, but the objective forces us to use it for at least 3 minutes throughout the night. It actually sounds a lot worse than it actually is, and it makes our shit drain less power, and with how much you'll be using it during this night, that's actually much more helpful than it is hurtful. But with that, we can move on to night 4 and the second part of this game, because if you remember like 800 years ago, I mentioned that this game was too big to fit into a single game. Alright, this is where the game starts to get fucking insane, so really prepare yourself for this. Night 4 introduces a brand new area to the game and a shitload more threats to deal with. This new area is called the Miniature Containment Room or something like that. I can't remember and I'm too lazy to look it up. I know, I'm an amazing YouTuber, aren't I? This area is a lot smaller than the map we've gotten used to, but it's also only used for a single night, so that's probably why. The main room we'll see is the containment area, in which we can see one of the characters this night introduces, Remnant Puppet. Turning to the right, we have some fucking boxes, and turning to the right again, we'll show an area where we can see Remnant Balloon Boy. Going back to the main room, we can look under the desk, and I'll mention why later. And finally, turning to the left from the main room, we can climb up a ladder, which legitimately takes about 6 fucking seconds of animation time. Oh my god. And once we're up here, we have our main view of the place, and we can turn around to look at more fucking boxes. Now we can talk about how we beat this night. Great. Well, that's pretty easy because all we have to do is survive until 6 a.m. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Did I say 6 a.m.? We actually start at 6 a.m. on this night, and for some reason we have to survive until 12. It doesn't really change much, but just thought it was something I should point out. And now is when I have to tell you the news that is going to make your penis burst like a balloon. There are 8 new animatronics on this night. Technically, a few of them we've already seen before, but of course, since we're in a new area, they do something completely different. 8 fucking characters, all brand new mechanics, and I have to learn them. That's it. I'm done. Fuck it. I'm done. I'm done. I'm not doing it. Fuck. Damn it. Not really, of course. Just look at the length of this video. We've still got a long way to go. So let's just rip the band-aid off. So let's start by talking about the most important tool at our disposal during this night, that being the simulation monitors that we can view in the main area. Inside of this simulation is where 4 of the characters are active, these characters being Miniature Baby, Miniature Freddy, Miniature Balloon Boy, and Miniature Ballora. I'm going to talk about all of these 4 characters at the same time since they all pretty much do the exact same thing. Occasionally, any of them inside of the simulation may become pissed off about who knows what and ask you for something. On the side of the screen, you will see we have an inventory of 5 items. So if a character asks us for pizza, for example, then we have to click the pizza to give it to them. And yes, all of the characters in the simulation are humans, but if we fail to give them what they want, they will appear right next to us as animatronics and rail us from the back while using our ponytail like a handle. These 4 characters don't have any sound cues for when they're upset. However, that's where this virtual discontent percentage comes into play. For each character, whenever they get mad, they will increase this percentage by 25. This is how you know you need to go deal with one of them. Not very hard, but they're really just a problem because of the goddamn animations we'll have to deal with. Now we can move on to talking about the 4 remaining animatronics that are always physically right next to us. Let's start by talking about the easiest, that being the Miniaturinas. They appear under the desk, and they only appear if either your surrounding activity or your virtual discontent reach 30%. And once they appear, they will never leave. To prevent them from attacking you, all you have to do is occasionally check on them so they don't kill you. However, let me tell you a little secret. If they ever appear, you should just restart the night because that's a lot easier than having to actually constantly check on these fuckheads. It's a lot more convenient to just make sure these percentages never reach 30%. The next easiest character is a Remnant Balloon Boy, and he's easy because he's just the Miniaturinas, except he's always there. He's located directly behind us, and all we have to do is stare at him to prevent him from moving. So you should really just spend a majority of the night doing exactly that. The next character I want to talk about is Miniature Puppet. Just like pretty much every other character so far, Miniature Puppet also makes no sound cue when she arrives. Instead, you'll be able to tell she's spawned once the surrounding activity increases by 5%. When she does, you'll want to quickly move up the ladder and see her floating in the air farming aura. Once we stare at Miniature Puppet long enough, another character named Venta Puppet will appear directly in front of us and start exhaling his rank-ass breath right in our face. Once Venta Puppet appears, we'll have to spam click the outer edges of our screen to like escape his grasp or something. I really don't know. And once we do that enough, both of them will leave and our surrounding activity will return to around 10%. And finally, we only have one more threat to talk about, and that is Remnant Puppet. She is by far the most difficult character on this night, so let's just get her out of the way. She will appear on the main monitor directly in front of us, and using this monitor is how we track her location. In stage 1, the monitor will say observe. In stage 2, she will get closer and the monitor will say its name like vowels when there's an E at the end of the word. What? Am I retarded? Bro, I must be losing it. I've been staring at Google Docs for too long because what the fuck did I just write? However, stage 3 is when things get bad. The monitor will change to say I am above, and it's at this time where we need to click the screen a fuck ton of times until the text Y/N shows up. Multiple times means like fucking 30, by the way, so get ready to break your mouse in half. Once the YN text appears, you have to press Y and then move up to the top area of the map. Then we have to turn around and watch the puppet crawl behind the box back into the 9th circle of hell where it came from. And that's it. I said she was the hardest, but that's really just because of how quickly you have to click about 7 million times. With all of the threats out of the way, we can move on to the bonus objectives. And thankfully, 2 of them are super easy. The first has us escape Venta Puppet, which is literally required to beat the night anyways, so that's cool. And the second is dying to Remnant Puppet, which is also not hard. However, the other two objectives on this night are actually pretty fucking hard. The first being getting no errors while doing the simulations. That means you can't mess up and give an unhappy character the wrong item, or give a happy character an item at all because they didn't ask for one. This is only hard because understanding which each item is kind of weird since the pictures make no sense. And finally, the hardest objective in both this night and the entire game so far is to not have Remnant Balloon Boy move from his starting position throughout the whole night. This just means we have to stare at this fat, ugly piece of shit for the majority of the night. However, this becomes really difficult when we factor in that this is entirely dependent on RNG and hoping that we don't get attacked by two other characters at the exact same time. And that's all Night 4 has to offer. And it's honestly such a nice breath of fresh air compared to the first 3 nights, since aside from that one bonus objective, there's literally no RNG at all and it's completely skill-based. Of course, the game still does a fucking horrible job of explaining anything. I've just kind of stopped mentioning that at this point because if I didn't, it would really quickly become 80% of this entire video. All right, moving on to Night 5, and this is where the game really brings its difficulty to the max. Sure, this entire game has been really fucking hard so far, but Night 5 and especially Night 6 are just completely fucking ridiculous. So let's get right into it. Night 5 only has 4 threats to deal with, but they're all new, and on top of that, we have another massive map to learn. And each character has an entire section of the map dedicated to them. And of course, the game still makes us read a book to understand anything, except the book might as well be in fucking Hebrew because I have no idea what any of it means. The map layout is pretty simple. We have one main hub area, and then in each direction is one of the characters' areas. To the north we have Freddy, to the east we have Chica, to the south is Bonnie, and west is Foxy. And yes, if you were wondering, there are incredibly long hallways leading to each area, and yes, the animations that play between them are long as dick and balls. The way we complete Night 5 is by doing 2 tasks. The first being surviving until 6 a.m., which for some reason takes 8 minutes this time. I don't know why time keeps warping in this game, but it does. And the second is completing something this game calls Insta Orders. What are Insta Orders, I hear you asking? Well, don't ask the game because it does a dog shit, horse shit, human shit job at it. So let me just tell you instead. Now, Insta Orders are really fucking stupid. You can do them throughout the night, but you really shouldn't. The game only needs you to complete 1 to finish the night, but the order has to be completed after you hit 6 a.m. And doing them during the night literally provides you no benefit aside from wasting your time. So just like wait until 6 a.m. to do them. The next thing we have to do once it's actually time to do the order is to establish a web line or something. To do that, all you have to do is open the monitor and press Q to open the additional monitor. Now, you might be wondering why I told you that you need to press Q. I never talk about the keybinds in FNAF games unless they're really fucking dumb. Well, that should have been the key takeaway there because this keybind is really dumb. The reason it's so dumb, well, I'm not kidding. The game quite literally never tells you about the additional monitor. It's not even hidden in some random paragraph. I read all of it. It literally doesn't tell you. You're just supposed to figure it out. Anyways, once you figure that out, open the webline menu and just wait for the connection to be established. The reason we need to do this is because if we don't have a secure webline, then the game can actually give us fake progress on our Insta Orders, which would mean that we could think we're making progress when we're just not. So that's fun. Always establish a connection, kids, especially with your runaway deadbeat dad. After we establish the connection, we just press the Insta Order button and wait for it to be done. After that, we should complete the night. However, something I should mention about both establishing a connection and completing an order is that the amount of time it takes for these actions to complete are completely fucking random and could take forever if you get really unlucky. And you can't close the monitor while these things are happening. So if an animatronic spawns during it, you will just lose. Amazing. All right, now let's move on to talking about the threats introduced. Keep in mind that each of them are dealt with in a completely different way, and each of them are located in a completely different spot on the map that takes 400 years to get to, and everything is RNG based and sucks dick. Got that? Cool. Let's talk about the first threat, Subject 1 Freddy. You know Freddy will spawn when you hear this sound cue. Once we get to Freddy, we will see him playing the piano like Beethoven. I think Beethoven played the piano. I don't know. That could be wrong. I really don't know. All we have to do is open up our monitor and select Song Data Bank. From there, all we have to do is correctly select which song Freddy is playing. He will be playing one of 4 songs, and of course, there's no way to know which one is which unless you already know them. I'm not gonna waste your time playing all of them for you, but just know that this is some bullshit trial and error. Once you choose the right song, Freddy will fuck off. The next threat we're going to talk about is subject to Foxy. The way he works is pretty interesting, but that's because he has 2 forms of attack. The first is really easy and is literally just Freddy, but easier. You will hear a sound cue that will play a random hertz number.
440 hertz.
Once you hear it, all you have to do is go over to Foxy's curtain, open your monitor, and go to sine waves and press whichever hertz number you heard. His other attack, however, is where it gets interesting. Once again, you will hear a sound cue, except this time it will just tell you to go to Foxy's stage.
Foxy aggression detected. Move to Foxy's stage.
Once you get there, you'll notice that you can't see Foxy poking his head out of the curtains like you saw last time. What you have to do is open up your monitor and then open the extra monitor and click cameras. This will show a camera inside of Pirate's Cove. You'll have to wait for Foxy's eyes to disappear, then close your monitors and click at the button at the bottom of the screen that says declare missing Foxy eyes. And of course, if you were wondering, the game literally doesn't tell you this fucking button exists at all. So that's just cool. Next up, I want to talk about Subject 3 Chica, who, I'll be honest, I still don't really understand how she works, but dealing with her is super easy. And I know that doesn't make sense, but just shut the fuck up. It'll make sense in just a second. When Chica attacks, she will make this sound cue. Once she does, all you have to do is go over to her section of the building, open the monitor, select override power, and then press cut, and this will make her go away. That's literally it. You might be wondering how I'm confused about that if I just explained it, but lucky you, that's what this next part of the video is all about. The reason why Chica confused me so much is the unbelievable amount of other shit that we can do to interact with her. To start, you can use oxygen removal, which will prevent Chica from killing us for 90 seconds, but will also force us to wear our mask, which, by the way, I know I haven't mentioned, but shut up, and we'll have to wear that mask the whole 90 seconds. We can also use something called a temporary fix, which will make Chica literally disappear for the rest of the night. However, from that point forward, every hour in game has a 1 in 4 chance of killing us immediately. We can use something called Prevent, which will stop Chica from ghosting for 120 seconds, but as a result, she'll become more hostile. And if you don't know what ghosting means, me too, bro. What ghosting means is that she'll just damage your mask. You might ask how we know that she's damaging it, and when she damages it. Maybe there's a sound cue, maybe there's a... Nope! The game just doesn't fucking tell us, so I have no idea, and I can't answer that question. So my main question is just, why the fuck does all this extra shit exist? You literally don't have to use any of it. Dealing with Chica is so simple, there's actually no point in using any of it at all, and in all honesty, we'll probably end up making the night more difficult if you do, rather than just dealing with her normally. And finally, we get to talk about my least favorite character, Subject 4 Bonnie. Easily the most confusing character in the entire night. Except unlike Chica, he's confusing because it's actually him who's confusing, and not all of the mechanics. Bonnie is pretty much just Freddy, but a little bit different. Where when you're dealing with Freddy, he'll play one of 4 different songs. Bonnie will instead play the same song with just 4 different versions of it. If that was confusing, that's what I meant. His song sounds like this. In our monitor, we can see 4 different buttons that relate to the 4 different versions of the song that Bonnie can play. Yes, I want to die. Thank you for asking. These buttons are with drums, without drums, normal pitch, and low pitch. But of course, this game has to make these buttons as confusing as possible and literally have them make no sense at all. Because if we hear the song without drums, instead of pushing the without drums button, we actually have to push the with drums button because fuck you in the face with my fat steamy balls. And of course, if we hear the song playing with drums, we have to push without drums. If we hear the song playing in a low pitch, we have to press normal pitch. And would you believe me if I told you that if we hear the song playing in a normal pitch, that we also have to press normal pitch, making the low pitch button literally completely fucking worthless. What the fuck is going on? What could have possibly been going through the dev's mind when creating this aside from black tar heroin? And of course, we don't get to hear the normal version of Bonnie's song at any point. So you just have to guess what the fuck low pitch and with and without drums even sounds like. So more trial and error. Hooray!
Yay!
However, there is one way to prevent Bonnie from being able to attack you by using a deterrent plush. It can only be placed when Bonnie isn't active, and you do this by going up to a stage and just placing it there. This will prevent him from spawning for 30 seconds, and with each subsequent place, it will become less and less effective before it just doesn't work at all. Before we move on, I need to complain about some bullshit that makes my dick hurt. If we look at the top corner of the screen, we'll see 3 percentages. Just ignore oxygen and condition because you're not even going to notice them, I promise. What matters is attention. Attention will increase whenever you do literally anything. Pulling up the monitor, moving around, doesn't matter. It will increase. If at any point this meter reaches 15%, all of the animatronics will become much more aggressive. And with it taking 9 fucking seconds to move between rooms, when they're this aggressive, you're going to lose every single time. And the best part, that is never once explained by the game. It never tells you that reaching 15% is basically a game over. It only tells you to be wary of your attention meter. What kind of fucking tutorial is this? Are you retarded? This is the equivalent of when AAA studios test their games on top of the line equipment and then release a game that nobody can play because they don't have a $12 million supercomputer. God damn it, bro. Just explain shit better, for the love of fuck. Now let's move on to the bonus objectives. 2 of them are pretty damn easy. The first has us encounter Chica while she's ghosting. So just, like, enter her room a bunch and you'll get it. And the next one is completing the night with optimal mask damage or whatever. Just use the mask as little as possible and don't use it while Chica's ghosting. Pretty easy. The next objective is a little bit harder. That being completing the night without the plushie losing its effectiveness too much. That's referring to the Bonnie plushie, since I haven't mentioned another plushie, you dumbass. You can get away with using the plushie 3 times throughout the night before you lose this objective. So just, like, only use it 3 times. The final objective is kind of the hardest one, just a little bit different. Something I haven't mentioned during this night are the 2 specials that you can activate on your additional monitor. Both of them can only be used once during the night, and this final objective has us complete the night without using the second life special. The second life special is just a second life. If you die, you'll respawn, but the clock will be set back by a single hour. So not doing that is pretty easy. Just don't do it. I'll mention the other special since we're talking about them, even though they don't affect this objective. It's called silent mode, and it just makes no percentage be added to our attention for 35 seconds. Yeah, always use this one. There's no downside to it. All right, it's time to talk about the single reason why I never wanted to cover this game, Night 6. Night 6 has a whopping 18 fucking animatronics to deal with, and they're all bullshit. And on top of that, the tutorial screen before this night is 5 fucking pages long. Oh my god, I don't want to read all that. But I'm making this video, so obviously I read all of it, or else I wouldn't be able to tell you what you have to do. Let's start by talking about the map. Thankfully, the map is only 1 room. I was thinking it was gonna be fucking massive, but at least that's something I don't have to worry about. The way we complete this night is by surviving until 6 a.m., but that's not it. Even after we get to 6 a.m., we still have to survive another 200 seconds, making this night a total of 12 fucking minutes long. Oh my god, kill me. On top of that, we have to do another insta order, except just like the last one, we can't do it at all until the survival task has been completed. Amazing. However, I do actually have some good news for you. This night is split into multiple sections, and 3 of those sections have checkpoints, so not all hope is lost. But don't let that fool you. This is by far still the hardest night in the entire game. The first section is from 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. and has us go up against the subject animatronics from night 5. Section 2 is from 2 to 4 a.m. and has us go up against Remnant Puppet, Miniature Puppet, Remnant Balloon Boy, Remnant Ballora, Miniature Baby, and Miniature Balloon Boy. So yeah, pretty much just everything all at once. I love it. After beating this section is where we get our first checkpoint. Then we move on to section 3, which is from 4 to 6 a.m. and has us deal with Revenant Freddy, Revenant Bonnie, Remnant Foxy, and Remnant Chica. And after this section, we also get another checkpoint. And finally, we move on to section 4, which is just those final 200 seconds, which have us defend ourselves from 2 new threats called Revenant's End and Amalgabot. I'm not excited for those 2, but we'll talk about them in a little bit. Let's start with section 1 and Freddy. Freddy will appear in the vent walkway's view. To get rid of him, all we have to do is open our monitor and press the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 in quite literally any order. It doesn't matter. So I don't even really know why they're numbered. I guess the dev was just running out of ideas at this point. Foxy is also really easy. He'll appear in this area. Don't even remember the name, don't really care, and I doubt you do either. All you have to do is press the load voice on our monitor and he'll go away. Once again, they're running out of ideas and it's really showing. The only problem with Foxy is that he's really far away from everybody else, and after pressing the button, you have to wait like 10 seconds before you can continue. Chica is also incredibly easy. She'll appear at the prototype table, and if we happen to see her little doggies peeking out from behind the table, all you need to do is pull out your Chica plushie and turn it around. Yes, turning it around is a different action from pulling it out. Don't ask me why. This will cause her to go away. Again, super easy. I see why there's no checkpoint at the end of this section. Bonnie is the last character in this section, and he's by far the hardest. Just like Night 5, he'll play his stupid song and you have to press a button correlating to what the song sounds like. Except this game, of course, had to change the way this shit works for some reason. The buttons this time are normal pitch, low pitch, with drums, and glitched guitar. Except unlike last night, where we had to press the opposite button most of the time, this time we actually have to press the correct button because fuck you. This section also mentions 2 additional characters, Golden Freddy and Shadow Freddy. However, I'll talk about Golden Freddy later since he's always active, and from what I could tell from watching a few different playthroughs of this game, because again, I was unable to do it for myself without getting very sick. I never once saw anybody see Shadow Freddy, so I'm just gonna assume he's bugged. Now we get to move on to section 2, which is much fucking harder than section 1. Like, a lot fucking harder, oh my lord. Let's just start by talking about Remnant Balloon Boy. He appears at the communication area. He will slowly open up his chest throughout the night, and all you have to do is click it every once in a while to stop him from boinking us. The next threat is Miniature Puppet, who can spawn on your cameras at random. Of course. Oh yeah, there are cameras on this night. I just didn't say that because it wasn't relevant before. All you gotta do is stare at him and he'll eventually disappear. Just to find them on the camera character because I hate my life. Miniature Puppet doesn't kill us if we fail to do so. He just becomes an annoying hallucination on our screen, and to get rid of him we have to stare at Golden Freddy's stage. And I'll explain why that's a problem a bit later. Miniature Baby is who I'll talk about next, and she's probably the easiest character here. Just like the previous night she was in, all you have to do is look through memories for good ones whenever she attacks and she'll go away. This has the same problem as her last problem, so I'm not gonna mention it and just move on because this video is already long enough. Remnant Puppet is another pretty easy character. He only spawns on camera 5, and if you ever see him there, just press the button in the corner that changes the camera position and he'll go away for some reason. Since you'll be checking for the other puppet all the time, this guy really shouldn't be a problem. The next character I want to talk about is Miniature Balloon Boy, who is just really fucking annoying. He will want to play a game called Hide and Listen. Not quite the name of the game, but he tried his best. When he wants to play it, you have to hide under the table with him. Once you hear him leave, you can get out from under the table, and congrats! You've just played the most boring game of all time. The final character during this section is Miniature Ballora, who is pretty much just Foxy from the first section. She appears in the same area, except instead of pressing one button, we have to open the side panel and press a different button. Oh, wow. Section 3 is where it starts to get fucking insanely hard. Revenant Bonnie is probably the easiest, so let's start with him. He spawns at either the Foxy Ballora place or on Golden Freddy's stage. For both of these, all you have to do is open your camera and launch a drone to distract him because his autistic interest is drones, and that's it. Revenant Freddy is the next character I want to talk about, and I'll be honest, compared to like all of the other characters on this night, he is so much more complicated for like no reason at all. When he spawns at the prototype table, he will be playing music. You have to listen for when his song plays 2 of the exact same notes. When he does, you'll have to use those Freddy buttons from earlier, except instead of pressing them in any order, you have to press them from largest to smallest. After doing so, you then need to open the camera and reset the song from there. Why is that reset song button in the cameras instead of the monitor? I literally have no fucking idea. I really just want to be done writing. I've been doing this for the last 5 hours. I'm not even joking.
I've been scripting for the last 5 fucking hours. The script here. You see, look, that's what I said, oh wow, and then I told the editor to put this video right here, isn't that cool? And we got a cat down here. What's up, kitty? Yeah, you heard that? That was her saying, it's some fucking bullshit, stop writing. I'm like, bro, I wanna. Damn.
Remnant Foxy is super similar to Freddy because he's also complete bullshit. He will spawn under the table, and when he does, we also need to get under the table with him, I guess. I don't know why. From there, we need to open the cameras, which will now for some reason display his memories instead of cameras. What the fuck is going on? Once there, we need to select a negative memory, and that will scare him away. Do you got all this? I hope so, because if you don't, you wouldn't be able to play this game for yourself, because I had to extract this shit from mountains of text. Meanwhile, I'm just spoon feeding it to you. The final threat in this section is Remnant Chica, who is probably the easiest. She works the same as Subject 3 Chica. When you see her, just show her the plushie and she'll leave. The only actual problem is that you need to be really fucking fast when she spawns. And finally, we can move on to talking about the hardest section throughout this entire night, with the characters Revenant's End and Amalgabot. Let's start by talking about Revenant's End, since he is by far the most difficult and leaves a sour taste in my mouth, and I really just want to forget about him. Revenant's End has 3 different ways to attack us, all with different ways of dealing with him. The first place he can attack is in an elevator I've just not mentioned so far. When you get to the elevator, you can open the doors to see if he's there. If he's not, you'll see 2 plushies. If you actually do see him, you'll have to close the doors, wait 3 seconds, and then reopen them. Repeat this until you see him standing up, and then you can walk away. The other 2 ways he can attack are pretty much the same. The first has him spawn near Golden Freddy. We need to turn to the vent view of Golden Freddy's stage and play a voice lure from the monitor to lure him away. Once he's there, we get rid of him in the exact same way that we get rid of him in the third way. And the third way is having him just spawn next to the vents themselves. When he does, 4 buttons will appear in the corners of your screen, and you need to press them in a Z pattern to close a mask over your face, which will scare him away. Amalgabot also has 3 different ways to attack, and from what I could tell, he always seems to attack right after Revenant's End. The first attack is really easy. He spawns by the communications post, and all you have to do is put your mask on, and it'll scare him away for some reason. The second way he attacks makes me want to kill myself. He'll spawn at the table, and we'll have to open up our cameras and search them until we find a stop music button that appears on one of them at random. I'm sure you can tell why I don't like this attack. We have to spam click this button until it disappears, which, yes, by the way, is entirely luck-based, and then he'll go away. His final attack is pretty much exactly the fucking same. He'll spawn under the table, and we have to go under there with him. From there, we have to open the cameras and find another randomly spawning button and click it, and he'll go away. Great. More RNG. Love it. And of course, now is the time that I should talk about Golden Freddy, who has been attacking us this entire time. He is obviously on his stage, and every once in a while his music will become unstable. When that happens, we just have to go over to his speakers and decrease the volume, and you're done. If you were expecting him to be super ass and insanely interesting, you're probably disappointed, because that's literally it. You might be thinking that all that's left to be talked about is the bonus objectives, but you'd be wrong, because there's actually a fuck ton more during this night that the game quite literally never fucking mentions. To start, let's talk about the metric shitload of fuck in the top corner of the screen. Attention, oxygen, and condition are exactly the same as in Night 5, so we'll just skip those. The first real mechanic is power. It constantly goes down no matter what you do, but if you go to the communication table, you can increase it by 10% just by pressing a button and waiting. The next one is radiation exposure, which I've literally never seen anybody increase no matter what they've done, so I really don't know what to say about that. And once again, the game doesn't tell you either. And the final one is health, which will only ever decrease when Minotaur Puppet is doing her hallucination thing. That's why I don't like her, by the way. I could have said that when I was talking about her, but fuck you. Also inside of our monitor, we have 3 repair buttons that do literally nothing and 2 specials. One that gives us unlimited power for 30 seconds, and another that does the silent mode thing for 35 seconds again. So yeah, just use them both because they're good. Okay, I kind of lied about the repair buttons being useless. Repair leaks is actually useful. Occasionally, at random, a gas leak will happen to drain our oxygen and kill us, so use this button to fix it. That's it. The other 2 are actually useless, though. There is still a lot more shit, honestly. Like, probably another 20 minutes of shit to mention. I'm not even kidding. Like this weird virus thing near the Foxy area. But I seriously just want to be done talking about this game, and in all honesty, these extra things really aren't interesting or impactful at all. Finally, we can talk about the bonus objectives, which aren't really that bad, except 2 of them, which actually do suck dick and balls. The 2 easy ones are beating the night without any specials. You don't really need the specials to beat the night, so so that's not really that big of a problem. And the other is to beat the night without passing 10% radiation. Again, I've never seen anybody get any radiation, so that also isn't really a problem. The bonuses that actually get hard start with beating the night without reaching 22% attention. With how much shit you have to do to complete this night, it's obviously going to be hard as shit. And the final bonus objective is by far the hardest and brings up another character I've mentioned twice during this night already. That being completing the night without going below 80% health. Basically, that just means you can never be attacked by Miniature Puppet, since if she becomes a hallucination, it is literally impossible to not go below 80% health. This is why I told you guys to really make sure you're focusing on her, because otherwise you won't be able to get this objective. But that's way fucking easier said than done, since the second section where Miniature Puppet is present probably has the most shit to do out of any other section. So you're pretty much going to get no time to actually check for her. So have fun. I know I wouldn't. And yes, before you guys say anything, I know that this game has a fuck ton more shit to do in the post game, with a lot harder nights filled with a bunch more bullshit that will make me want to cry. But this video is already so fucking long, and I've been scripting for no joke the last 7 hours straight. Yeah, when I told you I was done with 5 hours of scripting like 10 minutes ago, it actually took me 2 more hours to script from that point to this point. There was that much shit to look up. I need to be done. Plus, I don't want to hand my editor a long as fuck video. He's already going to hate me for what we have already. But if you really want to see me cover the rest of this game, which I promise will be another very fucking long video, probably the same length of this video, if not longer, then let me know in the comments below, and if this video gets enough views, then I'll gladly do it. But that's the main game of Post Shift 2 and what it has to offer. This game has the reputation of being the hardest FNAF game ever made, and while that's obviously literally not true, I can totally understand why people feel this way. It isn't just a max mode that's hard. It's literally the entire game, the whole way through. While I think this game is actually really cool as a concept, especially with all the post-game and bonus objectives, which is the type of stuff I eat up, I can totally understand why this game has left such a massive mark on the community. Asset dumping. The art of using random art from around the internet as all of your assets in a game. Seen with games like Getting Over It, Yandere Simulator, and plenty more. Five Nights at Freddy's games have their fair share of asset dumping as well. Five Nights at Wario's, One Night at Chica's Magic Rainbow, and of course, the very popular One Night at Frogger's. Usually seen as a very lazy way of creating art for your game, mainly because the creator isn't actually creating any art at all, but not all asset dumps are bad, and in its own way, they're an art form themselves, if you can build your environments properly. The game we'll be covering today is an asset dump fan game, and it's honestly become my favorite I've ever played. Today, we'll be talking about Late Shift at Nintendo World, the most stressful FNAF game I've ever played. Strap in, because I promise you, despite what it looks like, there's so much to talk about. So let's drag our balls into Night 1. Night 1, where it all begins, and where you might already become overwhelmed by the amount of possible things this game is about to throw at you. To start, I love the visual style of this game. While yes, it is just the typical asset dump, there are so many references stuffed into this game, it's amazing. And on top of that, the space in each room and camera is filled up so nicely. It's cluttered, but not so much so to the point that my eyes melt out of my skull. Anyways, before we start talking about the whopping 3 threats this night introduces, let's talk about the tools at our disposal and the locations we can travel to. Locations? What does that mean, Dxtr? Well, a location is a place you can go, you fucking moron. The first location is obviously your office. You'll see you have a large hallway in front of you, and of course, your cameras. Your cameras are pretty basic, except for the fact that they're dark as fuck. So we've been equipped with a camera flashlight. The way this flashlight works really makes me want to smother an owl. Every time you use it, only certain cameras will be lit up, since some cameras are outside where the flashlight doesn't reach. The camera light will only stay on for so long before shutting off, and making you wait for a cooldown to be able to turn it on again. Thankfully, the cameras aren't completely pitch black, so my balls get to stay attached to my body for another day. Now, let's talk about the second area you can go to, the outside fence area. Turning around, you'll find a large electric fence. You can tell it's an electric fence because it tells you so, which is very kind. You can hold down a button to charge up the electric fence, and when it charges, the fence will be shocked. Pretty sure that's not how an electric fence works, but to each their own, I suppose. And finally, the last place you can travel is the back shed. The only thing you can do here is hold the door to lock it. While that may seem a bit eerie and intimidating, you'd be right. It really is. But worry not, I'll cover why this place is so important in a little bit. With all of that out of the way, we can talk about the 3 threats this night introduces. Let's start with the main attraction himself, Mario. Mario is disgusting. Literally, look at this model. What the fuck is this thing? Ew. Dude, that thing is fucking nasty. Anyways, now that we're done pointing and laughing at him, what does he do? Mario will work his way to your office through 3 cameras. On each of these cameras, above your light button, you'll notice a music button also appears. If you ever see Mario on one of these cameras, simply press the music button and he will be pushed back 1 camera. Note that he won't be pushed all the way back to his starting camera. So if he travels through multiple cameras, you'll have to follow the cameras pushing him back 1 by 1. Very simple character. As long as you're constantly watching him, which you probably will be, he really shouldn't be an issue. The second threat this night introduces is Mario's taller, skinnier, and much more fuckable brother, Luigi. I'd let his mustache tickle my taint. What? Anyways, Luigi makes use of that spooky little back shed we were talking about earlier. Luigi will appear on camera 9, which connects directly to the hallway in front of your office. You will need to constantly watch camera 9 for when Luigi appears, and once he disappears from camera 9, then you will know he's in your hallway. Something else you'll notice is that you'll never actually see Luigi in your hallway, and there's no camera for the hallway either, and he won't actually appear in the office as well. So you really need to be paying attention. Once you know that Luigi is in your hallway, you will need to hop bottom to the back shed and hold the door locked. Luigi will peer in at you, meaning he was following your big, fat, juicy, bouncing, jiggling ass all the way over here. Once Luigi leaves the window of the shed, you're free to go back to the office. Luigi brings up a great synergy with Mario. Both requiring plenty of attention on the cameras really goes to make these two a dangerous combo, and I really don't want to be stuffed by 2 Italian sausages. I also wouldn't want to eat a sausage anyways. Oh! Oh! Whoa. 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 That's cool. That's cool. I do like that. That is pretty fucking cool. I do like that. This game's gonna get fucking hard, isn't it, dude? The final threat this night introduces is Pikachu. For some fucking reason. But whatever. Pikachu makes use of the big electric fence behind you. Occasionally, Pikachu will be visible behind it, and this is when you'll notice that apparently Pikachu came from fucking Jurassic Park because this fat motherfucker is the size of Jupiter. Of course, once you see Pikachu trying to get a peek at your pecker, see what I did there? All you have to do is charge up the electric fence and give him a taste of his own medicine by shocking him like he does to Ash, and he finally will leave you alone again. I can handle a lot, but I personally think an 18-foot tall Pikachu meat between my buns would be a little too much for me. But if you can manage to learn how all these characters work together, you'll move on to Night 2. Night 2 introduces a plethora of new threats, signaling to me that this may be one of the most challenging FNAF games I will ever play. It's only Night 2, and 2 new threats are added, bringing the total number of threats on Night 2 all the way up to 5. So let's talk about them. The first threat introduced on Night 2 is Kirby. I love Kirby. Kirby would never hurt me. That's a lie. This Kirby certainly would. On both your boiler room camera and back room camera, you will see 2 heat symbols have appeared. Kirby will attempt to get into your office via either of these 2 vents. So hooray! We have 2 more mandatory cameras that require our attention. The way you deal with Kirby is simple. Same as Luigi. When he enters the camera, all is good. But the moment he disappears from the camera means he's about to start rolling through your vent and into your office. When he disappears, hit the heat button to scare Kirby out of the vents. The heat only lasts 1 second, however, so you really need to make sure you time it properly. However, now is the time I get to tell you about the worst and most frustrating character we've seen so far, Meta Knight. That's right, we get 2 Kirby characters introduced at once, and just like Meta Knight in Smash Bros, he is an annoying pain in the dick. Meta Knight acts as a Foxy-like character in this game. he will appear in camera 2, which is the entrance. He will make his way through a few stages, and once he disappears from camera 2, he will charge at your office, and you'll be able to hear his footsteps quickly approaching. What you'll have to do is, as fast as you fucking can, run to the back shed and lock the door. Come in real close for me, just for a second. I'm gonna whisper this in your ear, so make sure you turn your volume up so you can hear me. You got it? Yeah? Volume all the way up? Okay, great. Don't let anyone know I told you this, okay? Meta Knight is so goddamn cock-sucking fast! You barely have any time to react once you hear his footsteps coming. You quite literally have just enough time to get to the back shed and close the door. This motherfucker is brutal. But Dxtr, you're supposed to watch him in camera 2, and once he leaves, then you go to the shed. Sounds pretty easy to me. Shut the fuck up! While yes, it's true that once he leaves camera 2, he will charge at you, watching him really doesn't even fucking matter. Because the moment he leaves 2, the sound cue of him running starts playing. So you might as well just wait for the fucking sound cue, since watching him will only waste the precious time you need to focus on the other characters that actually do give you the time of day to deal with them. And if that wasn't bad enough, Meta Knight is in the entrance, an outdoor camera, which means not only is it dark as fuck, but your fucking camera light doesn't work on that camera anyways! So you have to rely on the fucking lightning to be able to see jack dick from that camera. But the lightning is not consistent at all. It's completely random, and it only lights up outside cameras for, oh, I don't know, maybe less than a fucking second. So if you want to check the entrance, you either have to just fucking sit there and wait for the lightning to show up, which could take several seconds that you need to be using to check on the other characters, or you could wait to hear the lightning and try to quickly flip to camera 2 to check on this annoying fucker. Both options suck dick, so I guess pick your fucking poison. But if you can tighten your sphincter and listen closely and have reflexes like a god for long enough, Meta Knight will fold, you will complete night 2, and we can begrudgingly move on to night 3, where I can only hope to God that 3 more characters aren't introduced. Night 3, here we are. Let me tell you guys, this night does nothing to help with my crippling mental state. Because let me tell you, this night is hard. Like, really fucking hard. Let's talk about the threats introduced and why this night is so ass. This night only introduces 2 threats. However, one of them is easily the most infuriating character in this entire game. So let's talk about the one that doesn't make me want to stick my willy in a pencil sharpener first. Link. Link appears in the courtyard where we deal with Pikachu. You'll notice on this night that as you go to the courtyard, you'll now be equipped with a metal pipe. This pipe is used as a form of defense against Link. When Link appears in the courtyard, he will giggle really fucking loud to let you know he's there. You will have to hit him 3 times in order for him to go away. Every time you hit him, he will teleport to a different spot on the screen. However, you can only hit him when the Majora's Mask's eyes are red. If they're blue, you'll have to stare at him until they turn red before you can start hitting him. This brings up even more evil synergies with fuck-ass Meta Knight, since you won't be able to pass him until you kill him. Bro, he won't die. What? He wouldn't die. The Majora's Mask guy wouldn't die. And Meta Knight was coming. What was I supposed to do? Now, let's talk about one of the worst and most stressful characters known to mankind, Ness. On night 3, you'll notice in the shed that we now have a new addition of a fuse box. However, you'll notice that this fuse box only has 1 fuse, but there are 3 places for a fuse to go. You can freely move this fuse from one slot to another, but what does this fuse actually control? Well, on 3 cameras on the map that connect to the hallway in front of your office, there is a fire alarm in each of them. However, the button for the fire alarm will only appear on the camera that is adjacent to whichever slot in the fuse box holds the fuse. So if your fuse is in slot B, then camera 9 will have the smoke alarm button on the cameras. Ness will appear in any of these 3 possible cameras. When he appears on one of them, you will have to play the smoke alarm to scare him away. Yes, this means that if your fuse is in slot B and you see Ness on camera 11, you will have to quickly run all the way to the back shed and switch the fuse to slot C, then run all the way back and hope you were fast enough to play the smoke alarm in time. And you want to hear the best part? Ness blends in with the background while the lights are off better than any other character in this entire fucking game. So have fun being able to find him. He also really likes to hide on the side of the cameras, so you'll have to spend even more time slowly panning the 3 cameras he can be in back and forth to really be able to tell if he's in one of them. Easily the character I died to the most, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. I think I'm willing to say I hate Ness more than Meta Knight, honestly, but it's really, really close. Fuck Ness, he's a bitch. Night 4. Holy shit. I did not think they could make it any worse. And that's exactly what they did. Night 4 adds 3 new characters. Yes, I'm serious. They added 3 more fucking characters to this game, bringing the total up to like fucking, I don't know, 12? I'm not keeping track anymore. This is just insane. Before we start talking about the threats, Juniper, the phone girl, told us that there's an investigation going on. She doesn't tell us what it's about though, just says that the park might close soon for a while. She also does mention that some of the characters are starting to attack patrons during the day, so that bodes great for what they're going to do to us tonight. Speaking of, who are they? Well, let's talk about the smallest problem this night introduces, Fox Puppet. But it's really just fucking Star Fox. Star Fox has a chance to appear in the courtyard behind the fence. However, he is not a fan of being shocked by it, so if you electrocute him, he's gonna dive into your butt. Get it? Because foxes do that thing where they jump really high and dive, but he's diving into your... You get it, fuck me. When he's at your fence, all you have to do is spam your flashlight at him and he'll go away. Really not a big deal at all, and honestly, the amount of time you have to flash him is pretty forgiving. And you can even go to the back shed while he's standing there if you really want to, so in all honesty, he's not that bad. However, the next fuckhead we'll have to talk about is a pain in the dick, Captain Olimar. I'm pretty sure is who this is, at least. He will appear in the hallway in your office with 2 sets of eyes. I mention his eyes because they're very important to his attack. On night 4, a thermostat will become present in your back shed, and he directly correlates with this thermostat. When you hear him enter your office, which is signaled by some footsteps, you will have to look at his eyes. If both sets of eyes are red, you will have to run to the back shed and set the thermostat to hot. If they're both blue, set it to cold, and if one set is blue and the other set are red, then set the thermostat to mixed. After a few seconds, Olimar should go away. I don't think I need to explain why this is so horseshit to deal with, especially considering the amount of characters that require so much attention, so I'm not even gonna bring it up. Just know that I'm on the verge of peeling my foreskin like a banana. The final threat this night introduces, which yes, in case you forgot, there is still another threat to throw on top of all this bullshit, is Samus. Samus will enter your office through your hallway on either side. The cameras in which she will try to enter from will now be equipped with a lock button. They're not toggleable and must be held to hold the gutters shut. When you see Samus in either of these cameras, simply hold the lock button shut for a few seconds and she'll run away. Ironically enough, even with all of these threats active, Ness is still the character that has caused me the most suffering throughout this game. He is easily the most frustrating threat of all time. I've also died to Luigi a decent handful of times at this point, just because of how easy it is to forget about him. There is surely no way this game can get any harder. Right? It got harder, so let's talk about it. The phone call from Juniper on this night has her talking about how I shouldn't come to work tomorrow and that I'm stupid for clocking in today. That we agree on. I'm not really sure why I'm here. Apparently things are getting super dangerous, so that's awesome. There's a new threat on this night who doesn't like bright lights, so Juniper said she's changed out our camera lights. Great! Hopefully they're better now. They're worse. Oh, so very worse than they were before. Now, instead of having the brightness on the cameras for a few seconds and having a long recharge time, we now have less than a second flash of light and we get a faster recharge time. This is worse in every single conceivable way possible. Dude, this new flashlight thing, fuck this. Oh my god. What is this guy gonna look like, dude? Fuck me. I personally think that a great deal of this game's difficulty comes from it being difficult to see and track the characters. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, by the way. I know the retards over on Reddit like to misconstrue every single point I've ever made. No, I think it's cool that finding the characters is a challenge. However, now only having this small flash of light makes it so fucking much more AIDS-ridden to be able to do so. So, why on earth was our camera light downgraded this badly? Well, to deal with the one new threat this night introduces. Mario. Dxtr? Mario was already introduced on night 1. Did you already forget? No, dear viewer, I did not forget that. There are just 2 fucking Marios now. Why not? Fuck it, right? Why not add another existing Nintendo character? Why Mario again? I have no fucking idea. I don't really understand the thought process here, but we're just gonna shut our fucking mouths and roll with it. This Mario is easily the most stress-inducing character we've seen so far. More stressful than Ness, more stressful than Meta Knight. Occasionally, throughout this night, you'll hear Mario say, Wahoo. And that just means bad news for you. Do you want to take a solid guess as to what you have to do when you hear this sound cue? Go on, go ahead. Guess for me. I've not really complained about any of the mechanics introduced so far, as I feel each of them are pretty unique and offer something of substance to the gameplay loop. So come on, tell me what you think this game is about to do to me. Come here, come here, come here, come here, guess! Guess, you piece of shit! Guess what this game did to me! You have to go find Mario on one of the cameras at random and flash him with your light. I'll find them on the camera mechanic again! How many videos in a row have we had this on this channel? I don't think there's ever been a video where this dog shit cock-sucking mechanic wasn't present! And that's not all. No. 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 Not only do you have to find him on a random camera that he teleports to once, no, you have to find him on a random camera that he teleports to 3 times in a fucking row! Are you kidding me? Most characters in this game only have you deal with them once or twice throughout the night. Mario? At least fucking 3! You have to find this motherfucker on a random camera, while timed, by the way, and dealing with every other character at the same time, a whopping 9 fucking times! Fuck! 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 I can't fucking handle this shit! This is too much for my brain to handle! Over 10 fucking characters to deal with at the same goddamn time! And all of a sudden I'm in with this bullshit! This game is shoving carrots in my ass like some Bugs Bunny shit! What the fuck is wrong with you? Give me another character that forces me to go to the shit! I don't give a fuck! Not another find them on the fucking camera character! You've gotta be fucking me in my rear! Go find my dick! Go find my ass! Go find my balls! Go find my taint! Go find my tits! Chop my penis into 10 fucking pieces and throw each piece onto a camera and go fucking find them all! Fuck you! Nintendo, no, you ain't gonna stop me when I get it going. I ain't gonna slow, no, curtains ain't closing. Pouring all the salt, keep the insults flowing. Light up all the incense, come before the storm. Gather in the Smash Bros army like a swarm. Find them on the cameras, nothing but the norm. Cause another crash out, dog, I'm getting bored. Said, dog, I'm getting bored with you. I'm warning you. You don't really wanna start another war, do you? I don't know who's been around here misinforming you. When you fuck with Dxtr, what the horn's pouring at you. Up first, Mario is on the chopping block. The fat fuck plumber getting nothing on his cock. His bitch is locked up with a lizard, dropping cheeks on his rock hard fucking penis round the clock. God damn, it's fucking embarrassing. Her hair's in a bun and he's burying himself in her and she's having fun and he's getting his coming her, sending videos of him fucking her. Check your messages and see. I'll get her home when I'm done with her. Daisy's with him too, Luigi don't know the truth. He's staring at the video, skin white like King Boo. Does he dare to check another? No, it ain't true. Check your Snapchat, bro. She's saying he's bigger than you. Damn! I dumb bitch, I've been locked in on like Samus and that other bitch, Mega Man. Link on my shit, I could knock you with both hands. Make your head spin, do a dance on your can. Pikachu, flash a light at Pikachu. You behind the fence, I charge it up and thunderbolt you. Now you fried up, but we still got another hoe to boot. Star Fox turn, flash, epilepsy. Ooh! You get a seizure, Kirby in my heater. Blast his ass into the fucking ether. Samus back, her ass so fat I need her. Call her lowest way, she grip my Peter. Nintendo, no! Never gonna switch games, I'm about to blow. I've been making big waves, I've been good to go. Do you need to hit save, Annie, yes or no? Nintendo, no! I've been shooting at them like it's Rochambeau. I could kamikaze on a rainbow road. I might cause a riot when I beat them bros. Do you need to hit save, Annie, yes or no? Alright, coming real close. Answer me this question, why you bitches on my chode? Ness is looking at me, licking lips, don't want it though. Gotta flip the fuse box, keep this on the low. Alright, look, I don't know why you're doing this shit. I'm just trying to do my job and you keep riding on my dick. If it was Samus, that'd be fine, but it'd be everybody. Why just trying to make it through the week, but you keep stretching out the time like my asshole. Keep on pulling me in with a lasso. Ride me like a cowboy in the desert in El Paso. Friday come along and met a night beyond me bed, and matter of fact, he spanked me with a paddle, made my ass rattle. Put a saddle on me, hit me with a rowel, then he growl in the locker rooms. He hit me with a towel, then he plowing on my shit. I'm doing tricks up on his stick. I did the splits contortionist aboard that flip me over, slide me, bend me over backwards. Nintendo, no! Never gonna switch games, I'm about to blow. I've been making big waves, I've been good to go. Do you need to hit save, Annie, yes or no? Nintendo, no! I've been shooting at him like it's Rochambeau. I could kamikaze on the Rainbow Road. I might cause a riot when I beat them bros. Do you need to hit save, Annie, yes or no? Well, glad I got all that out of my system. With that, we can move on to night 6 and talk about something that actually doesn't make me want to kill myself. However, it does still lay a lot on you. Loading into night 6, you'll see we're no longer in the office and we are now actually in a fucking bunker. How did we get here? I have no idea, but that doesn't really matter. What does matter, however, are the new tools at our disposal. However, me explaining all of them to you right now will not be very helpful. So I'll quickly explain the general tools, and then we'll talk about the character-specific ones as we learn about said characters. Obviously, we have our cameras, pretty self-explanatory. We also have 3 entrances to our office, the big hallway right in front of us, and 2 doors to our left and right. These doors can be closed remotely through the cameras, but you have to slowly charge them up before they can close, and only one can be closed at a time. Also, at any time we'd like, we can cut the power to our office and be left in complete darkness with our thoughts, like me late at night questioning what I'm even doing anymore. But this isn't a therapy session, so let's continue. What about the threats introduced on this night? Given the fact we're in a different location, it has to be different characters, right? Well, that would actually be correct. However, one of the characters is a repeat. Remember that one Mario that I really didn't like from night 5? I know I was pretty subtle about it. Well, it appears he followed us down here. However, he is incredibly easy to deal with this time around. He'll wander around the cameras and eventually find his way into your office. Once he stands in front of you, menacingly, all you have to do is whip out your fucking baton like my Willy and tase him in the balls. I'm not kidding. This is fucking awesome and is just what I need after dealing with the bullshit he put me through on night 5. The next threat introduced on this night is Mega Man. He is also pretty simple. He will try to enter your office through your left or right door. When you see him in that door's respective camera, simply charge up that door and seal it shut. Once he bangs on it, you're free to open the door again. Next, we've got to talk about the Villager. She confused me quite a bit during my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. She will enter your office through any of the 3 possible entrances. Her rules state that once she enters your office, shut the lights off until you hear her run away. So tell me, what do you think that means? If you answered, wait until she appears in your office like Mario, then cut the lights until you hear footsteps, then turn the lights back on and continue, then you'd be completely fucking wrong, because she actually never appears in your office at all. You cannot see her when she's inside of your office, even if she is literally there. So, how are you meant to deal with her then? Well, you'll have to carefully track her on the cameras. When she enters camera 8, 7, or 6, her next movement will be into your office. So, if you see her on one of those cameras and then don't see her anymore, that means she's currently in your office and you need to cut the lights. The best part? If you have the left door closed and she goes to camera 6, indicating that she will be entering your office through the left door, even if it's closed like we've already established, she'll still be able to enter your office through that door. Isn't that just amazing? Anyways, I could point out the nuances all day long, but that's not what you're here for. The final threat introduced on this night is Andros, a character I've legitimately never seen before in my entire life. I've been able to recognize each character so far, even if I haven't played the game they were from, like Star Fox for example. But Andros? What the fuck is even that? Okay, I just looked it up. It's the main antagonist of Star Fox. Crazy coincidence that I just mentioned Star Fox and that I've never played it. That would make sense as to why I didn't know who this was then. Anyways, what does he actually do? Well, in my opinion, he is the most annoying character on this night. He is completely invisible on the cameras, and if he ever gets into your office, you die. In order to track him, you have to use the camera's built-in motion detectors. However, something really interesting about these motion detectors is that they're a piece of shit. Every single camera has the motion detector button. However, only one of the buttons on the cameras will work at a time, at random, and every few seconds, which camera has the working button will switch randomly. Meaning that, even though there's no character on this night that has a find them on the camera mechanic, these fucked up, morbid devs somehow find a way to work that bullshit into the fucking UI! What the fuck are you doing to me? I need to relax. I can't scream anymore. Breathe. How do we deal with Andros? Well, when he is on either camera 8, 7, or 6, you will have to use your heater on whichever camera he's on. Using the UI on the cameras, you can select which camera the heater targets and then blast heat into said camera remotely. Doing so will scare Andros away. Now, that's all of the characters this night introduces. However, there's still one more very important thing I've neglected to mention. Unlike every other night present in this game, Night 6 has a task-based completion system rather than a survival-based one. So that bodes the question, what is the task we have to complete? Well, on the computer at your desk, there are 5 important files we have to decrypt and extract onto our USB drive. The way we decrypt them is simple. Several strings of 4-digit number codes will appear on the monitor, and all we have to do is type them in. Type in several 4-string digit codes without messing up in a row, and trust me, it'll feel like you'll have to do this a billion fucking times, and you'll download one of the files. Do this for all 5 files, and the night is over. This task being added to this night easily makes it the most stressful mechanic this game has ever introduced. I was not expecting something like this from this game, and I honestly wasn't expecting a crazy final night like this in general. I'm all for it. Overall, I do still think Night 5 was harder than this night, but this was definitely a nice change of pace. After completing the night, we take our USB, run out of the bunker and into the parking lot, and drive off to the police station to show them our evidence. Looking back, we notice Mario followed us out and was left standing in the parking lot. We almost didn't make it out alive. It's revealed that our name isn't really Terrence, and we've secretly been an undercover investigator this entire time. The police raided Nintendo World and arrested the CEO, Leonard. Everything we mentioned in our report was found, except for one single thing: Mario himself. The only thing that was left to even prove he was present was his hat. Not knowing his whereabouts now, late shift at Nintendo World comes to a close. Kind of. There's actually a fuck ton more this game has to offer in the form of post-game content and challenges, with a whopping 12 additional characters for us to unlock and fuck around with. There's 9 other ones? There's 12 more? At the time of writing, I have no idea how these characters are achieved except for one. In the challenges menu, 2 fun challenges are present, and when I say fun, I really just mean ass. The first is blind mode, which will cause a constant blizzard to be present during the nights, making it harder to see in your office and in the courtyard. It also forces Night 5's shitty flash mechanic throughout the nights, and increases the amount of time you have to wait between flashes to make it even worse. And if that wasn't enough, blind mode still has one more big fuck you, in the form of a new threat: the Ice Climbers. The way they work is pretty simple, but retarded nonetheless. They have a chance to appear in any of the 3 major locations you can be in. If you ever see them, you just have to go to another area until they leave. I can't describe how terrible that sounds. Again, at the time of writing this, I have no plans to attempt this challenge, nor any of the custom night modes, which I assume will unlock the remaining characters. I do have the thought of attempting these on stream in the coming weeks, so let me know if that's something you'd be interested in seeing me doing and covering. Overall, I think Late Shift at Nintendo World is actually amazing. While I did find a lot of the characters annoying and stressful, the overall gameplay loop is very satisfying to nail down and will leave you feeling like a badass as you complete it. Yes, the entire game is just an asset dump, but you can't deny the crazy amount of effort and care put into it, and that's something I can always appreciate. Well, let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think this game is just another shitty asset dump to be thrown onto the pile? Let me know in the comments below. In my FNAF 87 rewritten video, I asked you guys what your favorite FNAF 2 remake was and why, and my favorite answer was this one by Mr. Stick Official. They said FNAF 2 Reimagined, and yeah, That's an incredibly fair answer. That game was amazing, and you can watch my review of that game over on this channel after you finish this video. The question of this video is, what is your favorite asset dump FNAF game and why? With the question of the video being asked, subscribe to the channel, I'd appreciate it a lot. Thank you to these 3 talented artists for their fan art. You can submit yours in the Discord, link in the description. Thank you to all of my super fan channel members. You guys ooze Riz juice. I've been Dexter, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya!